welcome to the podcast. I've been talking for quite a while.
Yeah.
Mal, you've been actually chilling in the city for the last 2 days with your wife. How was that?
I'm actually quite surprised how least amount of people there is. I mean, this pandemic's caused serious. I feel for all the small cafes and all the clubs and pubs. It was actually. Whilst I had a great time with the wife for the first get away with the wife for a couple of years, I'm actually really disappointed how
Sydney's turned out.
Yeah, Sydney is really slow.
Quite a ghost town out there, isn't it?
It is. It's terrible.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. I was, as we were talking about off air, which kind of I think's maybe gone a bit on air. I was just massively wrapped with your Big Green Hell documentary back in the day.
Yep.
It was crazy as shit. Like the stuff that I saw in that documentary, if people haven't watched it, you can go to YouTube.
Yep.
Mal tells it how it is, and he will definitely tell it to me on this podcast.
Yep.
And you were literally just, you were just telling people how you should be a race car driver because you just love cars, don't you?
Absolutely. I mean, the Nurburgring thing all turned out because the Bathurst 24-hour events in 2002, 2003 stopped.
Yeah.
That's how that all come about.
Yeah.
So before, I mean, obviously, you go back from the beginning when I first started, there's lots of other events that I competed in, trying to make it as a professional.
Yeah.
But by the time I got to 2002, 2003, well, I'd just turned 40.
Yeah.
So, do you think I'm going to get to be a professional driver at 40? So you got to actually wake up and go, didn't quite make it.
Yeah.
Let's kind of work out an alternative to still get your thrills.
Yeah.
And afford to be able to do it. And
what were you, before you get in, what were you racing at the 24-hour? With the Bathurst 24, were you doing
the
those
Bathurst, well, that was when, coming back again, I had prepared and run the Mirage Cup Series, the Mitsubishi Cup cars from 99, 2000, 2001 until it all started to fade. Yeah. And by the end of 2001, I actually bought some of the cars from some of the competitors because I built the cars. I personally built every car in the category with the help of the mechanics at Sutherland Mitsubishi. Yeah. Through the helps of the rally art people that brought them in from Japan. So I already had a whole fleet of these Mitsubishi Cup cars in my garage. And when the 24-hour race came around, I had Ross Palmer's right-hand man ring me up and he goes, "Would you support our 24-hour race?" I said, "Of course I would." And he said, "The only trouble is our Mitsubishi Cup cars at the time ran on 100 octane, which is aviation fuel." Yeah. And I said, if you can't, and your event says that you run on 98, or 95, whatever. Yeah. And I said, if I can't run on 100 octane, I said, well, these engines are 11 to 1; they could blow up. Yeah. And the deal, this is something that people wouldn't know. Ross Palmer turned around and said to me, through his right-hand man, "If you blow up an engine, I will repair it. I will pay for the damage," because that was how keen he was. He said, "Go and test it. Yep. Go and flog it." And then, you love this one. I rang up all the mates and I says, "We're going to Amaroo Park and we're going to do a destruction test on one of my Mirage Cup cars. Deal is we're going to drive it flat out, non-stop, all day and see if we can blow it up." Who's in? Well, no one said they weren't. So next bit I had them all lined up. They all had their helmets waiting to go, and we just kept throwing right-hand front tyres on because that's all we wore out was right-hand front tyres. Just round and round around the South Circuit, Amaroo Park, non-stop on the rev limiter. Yep. All day. Yeah, and then came home, pulled the head apart, and it did no damage to the engine with the 95 fuel. So perfect. Now we'll prepare for the 24-hour. So then I got around and rang everybody up, and I ran 3 cars that year. We got 11th, 12th, and I think 15th outright. Yeah, at all the cars. Yeah, right. Great event. Wow, holy shit. So no one would remember that. No. All everyone remembers is the Monaro's won, or the A Monaro won, and it lapped us every 15 laps it lapped us, or whatever it was. And but our little cup cars did 24 hours without taking the back tyres off. No tyres, no brakes. Fuel we were getting about 2.5 to 2 3/4 hours out of a tank. Swap drivers, and I think hour 22 out of 24 we said we better jack it up and change the front pads just in case. And threw some new pads in it and a set of tyres. Finished the race. Not one thing went wrong, and got to 2003, did the same. I actually ran a couple of cars, and but I didn't drive the 2003 event myself. I only drove the 2002 event myself. Yeah, right. And going through the dark, imagine around there in the dark, it's just madness.
I loved Amaroo Park. It disappeared. I was very, very young then. You were actually, Jeff I was talking to Jeff the other day,
Yep.
and he was saying that, he remembers you guys, the whole GDP production car days, Peter Bullen and stuff. It was just so organic for me as a kid watching, guys like yourself race out there, and you didn't get enough exposure, and this is why I wanted to bring on the podcast, you on the podcast, so you could tell your story.
Yeah, well, I'm very happy to be here. Yeah, and it's like, I thought people had forgotten about us old blokes, but you got to start. I mean, I started in the 80s when I built my own Tirana, like a XU1 Tirana. I wish I still owned this thing and paid $200 for it. Imagine what they'd be worth now, a genuine XU1.
Oh, yeah, they'd be worth a few thousand.
Yeah, but of course, that's well and truly gone, but...
It was a $200 ship box, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was definitely a two-door. It was a two-door XU1 Tirana. I still got the compliance plates in the workshop. If someone wants to go and rebirth an XU1, I've got some plates. not that I do that.
Yep.
And
but you also we'll go a bit back here. We've kind of gone a bit all over the place, which is fine. It's a podcast. We can talk. Sure. We can talk shit, know.
Yep.
But you actually started in 1977. That was your career with your brother, wasn't it? You were a junior ARDC member.
Yeah, that's how we opened up the newspaper one Saturday, Sunday, and suddenly there's this quarter-page advertisement. Who wants to be a member of a racing car club? And it had all the benefits. This free entry to Amaroo Park and Bathurst, and because the ARDC at the time, the Australian Race Drivers Club, hosted the Bathurst 1000.
Yeah.
So my brother and I went to the meeting that was at LIHEART, Norton Street LIHEART, where their old club rooms used to be, and joined and I was 15, my brother was 16.
Yeah.
So suddenly here we are as junior members. They picked us up on a bus at Parramatta Railway Station. They shipped us all out there. And we were all kids, and we were having a great time. So they said, when we got there, they said, well, what can we do? Well, I got to be pit crew on Terry Finnegan's Formula 3 car one meeting. I got to be the lap scorer another meeting. I got to help be a flag marshal another meeting. We were dead set. We were kids. We had to be kind of chauffeured around a little bit. But that was our introduction in the 70s to car racing, and it just went on from there.
How is Terry Finnegan? Is he still around?
Well, he's retired. He was one of our top privateers. I actually don't know where he's gone. I'd love to hear where he is now, because
if I get him on the podcast, that'd be another plus.
Well, there's past the story, and we can go on backwards and forwards. But Terry Finnegan paid for my flight to go to Melbourne to pick up my brand new production car, but in the early 90s, which I didn't know till later. As a gift to help me get there. So there is support from special people as well that don't want to be known. Like, there's people that have paid for things for particularly my motorsport, bought me cars, bought me trailers and trucks, and but they don't want their names. They don't want to be known. They just do it because they passionate motorsport followers, and they just want to give someone that hasn't got any bucks a break.
Yeah.
So, I've had plenty of them, and Terry was one of them.
Yeah.
And he probably doesn't know that I know now. Well, he knows now if he's listening to this.
Yeah. So also, during your 80s time and when you started racing, you did a 6-hour relay race at Amaroo, didn't you, at Amaroo Park? And
did all the 6-hour races. Yep.
Can you go into detail about all that?
Yeah. Well, what there was, the ARDC put a whole bunch of basically they're all Tirana sports events. There were a couple of odd mixes, but mainly we all had these Tiranas, and it was led by I'm trying to think of the guy's name. There was. Look! There was, how it ran. You had a maximum of 6 cars.
Yep.
And you had a sash which was velcroed onto the bonnet of your car.
Yeah.
So you'd start with the leader team 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever order you wanted to go. The car 1 started the race.
Yeah.
When you were either out of fuel or you're worn out, you came in, ripped the sash off, and that had to go on the next car before it could leave pit lane. And off he goes. Car 2, he does the same thing, and just keep rotating cars. As long as this little sash is velcroed to the car, your team is timed and lapped. And we went on to win that 6-hour race several times, at both Oran Park and Amaroo Park. And I was always known. I used to love the PR they used to give me. I was always called the spearhead.
Yeah.
And I thought, what does that mean? And then people said, no, you're the lead or the leading kind of.
Yeah.
You spearheaded the team.
Yeah, you're the main driver.
Yeah, well, our XU1 Tiranas, we had the XU1 fuel tank, so we had the biggest tank you could get. We had a 6-cylinder engine, 4-speed, and the side draft Webbers and whatever. And but it was great going, because 6-hour relay races could be anything from a road car to a sports sedan to there was no open wheelers. It was only sedans. But shit, it was popular in those days.
Yeah. How did you find Amaroo Park? I was obviously said
Yeah.
off air that I was obviously too young
Yeah.
for that time, but how was that track as a kid going there? Because
Yeah.
I know I've read heaps of stuff on social
Yeah.
media about
Yeah.
how crazy it was, the cool views, and
Yeah.
how was it?
It was one of the fastest tracks in Australia. Obviously the best tracks I can say to this day would be Amaroo Park was one of my favourites. I got my licence at Oran Park back in the 83. And I'd compare it to Lakeside because they're the three tracks that are really challenging, and it's high speed, and also the fact is tyre barriers and concrete walls.
Yeah.
And if anyone remembers what we call the lake stop go corner at Amaroo Park, they would never get past ever for FIA safety regulations because you were looking at a concrete wall on the straight ahead from the one of the fastest back straights.
Yeah.
You might have come out of a slow corner on the corner of the left hander.
Yeah.
But you got to stop go. And it was stop
Go.
and grab a gear and go.
Yeah. Was it down to like first or second?
Well, getting back to ARDC when I was a junior member,
Yep.
we got to get passenger rides. And I remember distinctly going for a passenger ride with Terry Shield in an RX3 Group A. At the time was I suppose you'd call it a Group C car. And he'd come in the back straight, plucking gears in his rotary, and we're in the passenger seat. Now, we were kids.
Yeah.
So imagine coming at stop go. He went from top gear, and he gave the biggest heel and toe, smack in the first gear, let the clutch out, and up against the wall and gone.
Yeah, right.
I went, holy shit. You know? So I've had introductions of motorsport by being a passenger with Terry Shield, Jim Richards took me around once, and I also went in a rally car with Ed Ordinsky.
Yeah, I remember Ed.
And to be in a passenger seat and watch these professionals drive, that's what, because I said to Jim Richards one day, do you have to brake that hard, do you? And he looks at me and goes, of course. I thought you just had to be smooth and, squeeze and, no, he's bang, smash and stop
right.
and go.
Holy smokes.
Mate,
He would just give it his all and just show you around the track.
Yeah.
He's always been a gentleman, as they call it. Like, off the track, he's been a gentleman, but he's been quite aggressive.
Oh, yeah, on the track. Yeah, this gentleman, Jim Bullshit on racetrack. Yeah, right.
I actually want to know, like we're obviously talking well into your racing, we'll get back to it, but how you grew up, where did you grow up in Sydney, and did you go to the Speedway, like Liverpool Speedway or anything
No,
like
actually, I went to Granville Speedway, not Liverpool, because Liverpool probably went once or twice, even though I live only literally 10 minutes from it, where the old Speedway is at Liverpool. But no, I only went to Granville because I'd moved out of home in my early 20s, and I lived in Auburn, and Auburn to Granville was just down the road.
Yeah.
So it was great, have tea in the pub, because I lived next to a hotel, so, cooking meals is
easy.
Straight to the pub.
Yeah.
And the woman knew me by name, I reckon I had roast 5 days a week. It was great.
Roast 5 days a week and go to the racetrack.
So where I grew up, just to answer your question, I was in a place called Rydalmere, which is just out of Parramatta. So we were at the western suburbs. I worked from the day I left school. I became a carburetor specialist. I went straight from high school straight to work as a 16-year-old. Went straight to a mechanical workshop, which just happened to be a carburetor specialist. So I went to learn how to rebuild carburetors and tune cars. So I was the tuning specialist.
A dying art carburetors, aren't they?
Absolutely, yeah. Well, Brownie gave me my big chance, because when I used to torture him, I was the paper boy, and I used to throw him the papers every afternoon, and every time I'd go past, I said, Brownie, I need a job. I'm going to be leaving school soon. He said, well, mate, you come back, and and he did. He gave me an apprenticeship, and so I was with him for 10 years. So that gave me the workshop. So when it got to building my own car or buying, suddenly I had a fully hoist and toolbox, and I could stay all night. He gave me the keys, and we could work all night.
Yeah, right. Back then, there was no social media or PlayStations or whatnot, so that's what you used to entertain yourself.
That's it. No, and for those that know, I'm sure there's a lot of listeners out there that know me from that day. Mary Parade was where it was, and we used to call it the Mary Parade drag strip, because it had the drag strip, and it had a hairpin at one end, and it had a laneway at the other end. Yep. So you could practically tell who was coming into the era, so you could still do your test driving, and like literally your drag racing stands up, but you had the hairpin to test the handling.
Yeah, right. Did you idolize, when you went, like I've asked a few guests here, did you idolize anyone at the Speedway? Did you have any favourite sprint car drivers or any
Speedway days?
Yeah.
I suppose in my days it was the Gary Rushes, I really didn't get into the speed. I take that back. There was a guy called Sid Hopping who actually ran Granville, and his son Tony, because they had the mower mower business in the end of Mary Parade right on me. They were just around the corner. So I used to go with Tony to the Speedway, and I actually used to do the carburetors on his engines to try and help him get out of the corners quicker. So, I had a little bit to do with Speedway, but I didn't drive myself. But later down the track, one of my co-drivers, which we could talk about later, Kevin Burton, he decided to get involved in sprint cars.
Yeah.
And he did quite well back in his day with the black sprint car. I don't know what it's called, a Gambler or something. You get the Craft.
Oh, there's heaps of different chassis names.
I don't know. But he did give me a steer of it. And for those that don't know, I busted both my legs in a bike accident when I was 18. And when I got in the sprint car, my right foot was always crooked. And when Kevin gave me a steer of his sprint car at one practice day at Granville Speedway, Parramatta there, I was all strapped in, and he goes, "Now listen," he says, "we're going to push start you, and I want you to watch that gauge on the dash, and when that oil pressure comes up to here, then I want you to turn this switch on, and that turns the switch on, and then she's going to go.
Yeah.
But don't hold too much throttle.
Yeah.
Because you're talking power to weight, 800 horsepower, and 600 kilograms.
And these things are like a chair for people who don't know.
So I'm sitting up straight, like a chair, like you're saying, and they pushed started me. I flicked the switch. Holy shit! They picked the front wheels off the ground. Stone cold engine, so I've had to try, but I couldn't back off because I didn't have enough strength in my knee to take the throttle because I were in a stirrup. You had to actually take your throttle off by lifting your leg. I didn't have enough strength, so I nearly shit myself. I made half a lap round, I switched the thing back off and rolled to a halt. KB comes, "Oh no, what's wrong with it? What's wrong?" I said, nothing's wrong. I said,
this thing's fucking nuts.
I said, thanks for the offer, KB.
Yeah,
I'm going to decline. I'm going to get out and give your car back. Thanks anyway. So that's how I did at Granville Speedway was, I think, half a lap.
Yeah, right. Sid Hopping actually did build the Speedway, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah, he was the founder, and that was crazy. I missed that place. That place for me as a kid brought a lot of memories. That's why I ask a lot of my guests about it.
Yeah. No, it did bring a lot of memories back. Because as I said, Sid had, and I think the mower place is still there right on me just before the railway bridge. I'm sure it's still there.
Yeah, it's a great area. It definitely brings up a lot of nurtured race car drivers and people who love their businesses and stuff like that around there.
But that's where I got to build the Tirana, and Brownie let me use it. And as I say, that Tirana ended up being like in its era. That we're talking now mid 80s for the 83, 84, 85. I was king of the kids. I mean, there's not many Tiranas that was as fast as my thing. Before I got there was other fast Tiranas. Yeah. But then those guys got a bit older and retired and got out of it. So I've turned up with myself and my brother, and I say I'm the carby specialist. So I had the best set of Webbers and the 12-port head and the best exhaust system. And because we had the dyno at Carburetor Service Company at Burwood there, we used to roll up the rolling dial. Mate, they had heaps of horsepower. Yeah, right. Can you help me with my Formula 4 with my carby? Because I need some horsepower. Yeah. No, well, that's the thing is that you don't name a car these days has got a carburetor standard. Yeah, I know. There's not many around. That's why I like racing the Kent cars, which you actually raced. Yeah, I did. You know. But we're talking about your career. You're also in 1987 you borrowed and purchased a Group E Commodore. And how did that go for you? Well, that was after I raced at Bathurst with Mike Bergman, the late Mike Bergman, his Group A. That was in 86. So by the time I got to 87, I had no car. I had to buy something to race because I thought I was going Group A racing with Mike Bergman, but unfortunately Mike crashed on lap 5 at Bathurst that year and unfortunately passed away. So not 87 comes along, I've got nothing. So I bought a second-hand production car off Greg East. It was already built as a production car. And that year, Amaroo Park started a category called Commodore Classic. Yep. So it was still production-based or Group E production, but they called it Commodore Classic. They stuck a spoiler on it, side skirt, different wheels and whatever. Mate, and here I am racing against Pete Gagan, John Goss. Yeah. And everyone seemed to have everyone had a V8 Commodore in that era. Yeah. So they were the car to have. Oh yeah, it was pretty. What did it feel like? As you said, you were like a later racer compared to most people who are getting into it young these days. And as you've said in your documentaries and other media as well, what did it feel like racing like Scaife and all those guys through that era, and you not like you're a good driver, but how did it feel like racing those guys and not being their standard? Do you know what I mean? Well, we'll go back to Scaife. Like Scaife was a good example. He raced a Tirana in the same year as I did. When we first got our licenses in the early 80s, there was Glenn Seaton was there with his father's Escort, and then I think Mark was there in his red Tirana that was sponsored by his father's Wyong tyre company. So they were the guys that we wanted to beat at club level racing.
Yeah.
And it was disappointing as life went on that they kind of went on to be factory drivers, and then and us blokes just went by the wayside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's what creates a racing driver for me. That's why that's why I've created this podcast, because it's about people who are not at the top of their game, like, you know what I mean, technically at the top of their game, but it's the guys telling their stories to get to that game. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for you, racing back then, I actually missed on a part in you raced the Goodyear Laser Series in 1985.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
How did that go?
Well, that was because at the time, the way they marketed it, it was like there was plenty of prize money, there was TV coverage,
Yeah.
and it was deemed that this one make series could then bring on the next new talent. Like, because remember the year before that they had a one make series where they had all the lead drivers in. They had the Johnsons and the Bonds and the Grices and whatever, you know.
Yeah.
They had the Alpha Sud series and whatever.
Yeah.
So we all thought that this is going to be the
series to be.
Series.
Yeah.
So anyway, I only lasted 5 rounds. By round 5 at Amaroo Park, me and Scafey come together in the Dunlop Loop. I flicked it upside down. I bounced off the tyre barrier. I didn't realise that when you hit a tyre barrier, it actually sucks you in and then spits you out and then flips the car over. And actually, the tyres, because there's nothing inside the tyre.
Yeah.
If you hit a tyre barrier hard enough, it does a lot of damage.
Yeah, right.
And I remember spinning on my roof upside down, thinking how many cars are behind me coming out of the Dunlop Loop, thinking, oh my God, I'm upside down. I can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
Don't take your seatbelts off. Just sit there and wait for the noise to end, and hopefully nobody will hit you.
Yeah, and you're upside down.
And I'm upside down.
Going, fuck, just don't hit me.
Thinking, don't hit me, don't hit me, don't hit me. You know? so I lasted 5 rounds, and that was it.
Yeah, right.
And so my Goodyear Laser series ended with that was a brand new car that I'd bought from a Ford dealer at Camden.
Yep.
Brand new, borrowed the money, bought it from borrowed money,
Yep.
$8,000. And then 5 rounds later, here it is in the workshop, sitting beside. I had to go and buy another brand new shell and then learn how to do a swap.
Yeah. And you were doing this all yourself, were you? With
yeah.
a small crew, essentially.
No,
not all yourself.
All myself, yeah.
Yeah, right. Jeez.
Because Brandy let me have the workshop, and there was probably 1 or 2 mates that used to come in night time, but really they only then turned up to drink beer.
Yeah.
And watch
Drink beer and not even actually do anything on the car.
Did fuck all, yeah. But look, I learned a lot. You know? I mean, the laser, I thought that was going to be my big career, but that didn't seem to work.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. But at the end of '85, that's when Mike Bergman came along and asked me, do I want to drive in Group A? That was, so he came up with a deal. He says, get rid of that laser, rebuild it, sell the shit of everything, and you can drive with me at Amaroo Park, Sandown, and Bathurst.
Yeah, right.
I'm thinking, how good's that? I'm thinking, how much is it going to cost?
Yeah, because that's what racing is
I've
about.
already
How
just
much is it
borrowed
going to cost?
$8,000 to buy the laser, and I've just wrecked that.
Yeah.
And he's come up and he said, "I will come up and we'll do a deal." So I've gone to his home and I sat down with because I didn't know Mike, but I actually knew his wife quite well, because Gay, she was the personal secretary to Ivan Stibbard, who ran the ARDC.
Yeah.
Who was the general manager. So I knew Gay quite well, but I didn't know Mike, the husband, and he was the accountant. He was the financial advisor and director of the ARDC. He's the one that made things happen. He's the one that helped make the pit complex at Bathurst happen. He was the one that went to Europe, that brought basically back to Australia the world Group A Touring Car Championship for 1987.
Yeah, right, to Bathurst.
To Bathurst. It was Mike's involvement with Ivan that flew to Germany and whatever they went to. And so Mike had a lot to do with the ARDC and the Bathurst pit complex as well. Yeah.
For me, obviously coming in and being like a lot more like younger than you, was the ARDC a lot more bigger back then as opposed to what it was now? Because CAM's Motorsport Australia.
ARDC ended up being, I think, biggest car club in Australia. I could be wrong, but I know there's a couple of thousand members, and we were quite proud members. We had little badges, you know, and matter of fact, I got to be on the board of the ARDC there for nearly a decade. I was one of the directors of the club. Yeah, because you were voted on by the members. So the members every year got to tick a box, and it's like voting for your local council, but you voted for the person you thought was going to be helpful.
Yeah. Isn't Rick Shaw from around your area, or does he live around?
No, he's not from my area. No.
Oh, okay. Because you're good mates with him, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, Rick and I took his RX-7 to the Nurburgring a couple of times as a freight deal, like just to ship his car and equipment for him so he could run his own deal.
Yep.
I've helped, and Rick also raced one of my Mitsubishi Cup cars at the Nurburgring one year as well, and
Yeah.
You know, he's. I think we're similar ages. I think he might be a bit younger than me, but he's followed a similar path. He's done the one make series. He did the Suzuki series the year after. Trying to make it. I think we've all tried to make it, you know. I mean,
regardless, I think for people who are listening to this, a lot of people who are dreaming to race cars, the point that you've done it, man, on Rick and so other have actually hopped in a car and raced is just an achievement on its own.
Yeah, well, I use the analogy. This is we go back to club level when I was in the ARDC club level racing, and I was club sport because I remember ARDC club sport when I was 15. I couldn't race a race until I got my CAMS license.
Yeah.
So I might have been a club member when I was 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, but I couldn't race because I didn't have a license. I could do super sprints and hill climbs and lap dashes, but I couldn't race.
Yeah.
So I had to actually get my license, which I didn't get that till 1983. Now, I'm now 21. So I hadn't actually, but look at the 21, you got Formula One world champions.
Yeah, that are younger than younger than that. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Did you actually get involved in AUSCAR as well?
Yes.
That was 1988, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was the beginning. And how that became up is this 1987 production car you're talking about that I bought off Greg East.
Yeah.
By the end of 87, there was Bob Jane had just about finished building his Thunderdome. And I'd actually raced down there where they had a split race. They had the circuit, they had the main circuit and the Thunderdome, where you used to go flat out down the main straight, do a big break 3/4 way down, hook into the Thunderdome, 3/4 lap of the Thunderdome, come break at the end, flat out around the outside, off camber, back to the main circuit, right around the whole flat track of Calder Park, and that was one lap, and it was.
Was it like a street track versus slasher oval race?
Well, it was combined, yeah. So you had your, and they called it the Calder Park Super Series. And mate, I had a look at the results. I'd actually forgotten how much money I'd won down there, and the fact that I'd qualified on the front row of the grid in my this same V8 ex-police car, 4-speed 308. Next to, I think it was Gary Walden and Kevin Bartlett, and I mean, there's some big names I had, and mate, I didn't know what I was freaking doing. I used to tow the car down with a panel van, you know, with a girlfriend. I didn't have any idea what I was doing.
Yeah.
And then getting back to it, once you realise you can actually win a race, it does help your confidence level. And you just, you know, if you can beat these guys, your confidence builds.
Back then, it was very, very competitive in your day, opposed to now, because obviously it's so expensive. But more than there was more cars and more entries. So were you going for like a top 15, top 10, top 5, and then aiming? Were you just always aiming for a win?
Always aiming for a win. You never ever go to somewhere not you're going to win. Yeah, it's because as I say, there's only one winner. And from 2, 3, 4, it's first loser, second loser, third loser. Yeah, no. But I actually have a good story because I forgot about it. I completely forgot about it till the other day. I was working out at Wakefield Park as a driving coach, and one of the other instructors there, we're having a chat at lunch, and I said, because he was asking the question where your confidence started, how you built your confidence with motorsport. Yeah. And I had this Tirana that I built in the workshop on my own, and it had drum brake rear end, and it was a Tirana, like it was just a 1970 whatever Tirana. Yeah. Anyway, so as I said to you before about my accident I had when I was 18 years of age, and I broke both my legs. What I didn't realise is, this you love this story. When I was at school, I was a paper boy, as I said about dropping papers to brownies.
I was actually a paper boy too when I was a kid.
Well, what happened one day was I got off the school bus on the main road in Victoria Road right on there, ran across the road in front of the bus to get to the paper shop first, so I got the best barrow with the best wheels and pumped up tyres, and I got hit by a car.
No way.
I got hit by a car in a car because the cars coming past the bus didn't see me come out. I was only probably 15, maybe 16 years of age. Hit me square in my right leg and snapped my leg. And I'm there flat on the road. I even remember my mother saying she heard on the radio that there'd been a pedestrian knocked down and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Anyway, so how this stems into motorsport, in 1983, I get my racing licence. So I'm 21. I've now got a licence. What I didn't realise is that the reason we all pay third-party insurance is the pedestrian is the third party. The passenger in a car is the third party.
Yeah, right.
And what I didn't realise is that I got this letter out of the blue saying that I was involved in this incident. I say crash, it was an incident in Victoria Road, Rylamere in 19 whatever. Yeah. And we are prepared to offer you a settlement of XYZ amount. Yeah. If you sign this letter, date it, send it back, or send it out, or you can take it to court and you know. Yeah. And I'm looking at this going, man, I'm 21.
Yeah.
I got this second-hand race car. I need new tyres. I haven't got the best. I had a lip and slip diff. It didn't work, so I needed parts for it, and I wanted to buy a Detroit locker. For those that don't know, a Detroit locker's a pretty special racing diff.
Yep.
Anyway, I got this check sent to me from the GIO or someone, whoever was the insurer.
Yeah.
But it wasn't $2,000. It was something ridiculous. Well, it allowed me to buy a second-hand Commodore road car tow. So that my tow car became a SLE Commodore, which at the time was a Duck's Guts.
Yep.
I could buy a trailer.
Yep.
I could buy the diff, and then I went and bought brand new slick 317 Dunlops from Dunlop Motorsport, because I had Alan Kelly, who was the motorsport manager. He said, "I'm going to give you the top of the range compound, top of the range, the right tyre."
Because you got all this money, you're like,
I got
fuck,
this
I'm going
money.
to spend it now.
There's money. My dad's going.
Sounds like a race car.
My dad's going, come on, put it away and for the future. What?
Nah.
Get real. So no advice. So the old man did give me the advice, but didn't take it. Didn't take it.
Yeah.
Bought all the good stuff. And I've turned up at Amaroo Park for that next race meeting, and I smoked them. Like, I had the best tyres, the best diff, all the best front suspension. I had the tow car.
Yeah.
I was king of the kids, man.
Yeah.
I might have had a limp from my broken leg.
Yeah.
But I was king of the kids.
But you were winning.
And I was winning.
You were winning.
So again, this point I'm making that is, I then went to the confidence level, went up a notch completely. But I forgot how I got that, and it wasn't until I was talking the other day to Nathan, a mate of mine, and shit, I don't know, I got that money that time.
Yeah.
Because people say to me, how did you get money to go racing? Because my mum and dad didn't give me a cent, you know.
And then that's how you worked into
that
it.
pops out of the blue.
Yeah, right.
Beautiful.
You got to make it somehow in car
I
racing.
don't mind telling people that story now. I completely forgotten about it, and it was a considerable amount. From what I got told, it would have probably paid a good deposit on a house.
Yeah, right. But you just chose to spend on race cars.
Race cars.
But that's all right. That's what race car drivers do. We
Anyway,
like to
I
spend
wanted to
on
get that
cars.
story out. I've got that story out. I feel good.
You feel good. You got that off your chest.
Got that off your chest.
In 1990, you actually raced I was a Ford EA, wasn't it?
Yeah.
What happened there in 1990?
Well, how that came about. In 1988, 89, 90, I did AUSCAR. Because we built that Commodore into an AUSCAR.
Yeah.
Because Bill Jane's brother, Bill, had supported three of us, Greg East, Tony Cabbage and myself, and we got to go AUSCAR racing. And then after I did AUSCAR racing, I got out of that because it all got too expensive, and, a guy called Paul Flotman had a production car, an EA Falcon, and he said, "Oh look, and I'm not doing that well, and maybe you can help me, and we can do a co-driver deal. We do the 300k Winton 300, and we can do the Bathurst 12 hour and whatever."
Yep.
So I thought, no problems. If you're going to supply the car and equipment, I'm in.
Yeah.
I didn't have any money.
Yeah.
So you supply the car, I'm in. And, so that's how. So when I got back into circuit racing, and again with confidence, I raced at the Thunderdome, where you were coming into corners at considerably faster than what you do on a road circuit.
I actually want to touch on the Thunderdome.
Because it's 24-degree banking or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So I come back to Amaroo Park, which I had raced for many years, and I get there in this production car Falcon, and I could go over the top of Skyline, they used to call it, Bitchapave or whatever. They call it Bitchapave Skyline, into the Dunlop Loop. Yep. And other competitors complained to the scrutineers that I was cheating because I disconnected my brake lights. And I said, "Did I really?" And they said, "You got to have a switch in the car or something because you're not braking over the crest." And I went, "Well, what I learned at Thunderdome is you don't need to brake at certain parts because I had so much confidence in the speed you could travel at the Thunderdome." So leaving NASCAR or AUSCAR racing actually improved my road racing.
Did you actually race any of the Americans when they came over here?
No, I only did the AUSCAR. NASCAR's.
Can you explain the difference? Because I don't know, right? Can you explain the difference between AUSCAR and NASCAR for people who are trying to learn about the history of?
Well, NASCAR was obviously NASCAR. That was the American. Yep. Proper chassis things with big engines and full speed.
Carbies, big V8s.
Yeah, big V8s.
Old cup cars.
Yeah, just muscle things,
Yeah.
But they all, but because they're left-hand drive, all NASCARs went anti-clockwise.
Okay.
So they always, you're basically turning left, continually turning left.
Yeah.
What Bob Jane wanted to do, he wanted to have a junior category, but because Australia only had our Fords and Holdens,
Yep.
he decided to call it AUSCAR. So Oz was of Australian Speedway Company or something. It was AUSCAR.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Right?
Yeah.
And so he registered that logo, and then it was just the rules just got made up, you know. And
Yeah.
so, but AUSCARs were right-hand drive, Ford and Holden,
Yep.
that went clockwise,
Yeah.
and we were bloody fast. I mean, I know the record. I think my record I did was a 33.4 second lap. And I know they've done faster since, but NASCARs were only just cracking the 30s.
Yeah.
They've got a bit fast now, but we weren't that far off, and we were on treaded Goodyear tyres
Yeah.
with basically standard suspension.
Yeah.
But NASCAR were full on, you know, like
Yeah.
adjustable coils and
Yeah.
big muscly control arms and
Yeah.
full, you know, big 9-inch diffs and.
I'm going back here because I remember one of my fans sending me a question. Who's a go-karting legend, by the way, Matty Wall. He wants to know a bit about the 1986 Bathurst crash. What happened there? He wants to know your side of the story.
You're talking about the one that took Mike Bergham's life?
That's it, that one.
Oh, okay, well.
Your side of the story.
Okay, well, my side of the story was, imagine here I am, I'm only 3 years into my motorsport career because I only started in 83 at circuit racing. So by 1986, I'm at Bathurst. So I just competed with Mike at the Sandown 500.
Mm-hmm.
We'd finished the top 10.
Yep.
I think we had John Harvey's mobile car was one place before or behind us, whatever. So imagine going to Bathurst, and I was super excited. So Mike gave me a lot of laps to get my head around it because I'd never raced Mount Panorama in a Group A car, and it was a 5-speed get track, so it was a really. But how the crash happened and what happened with Mike is that the race started at the usual 10 o'clock on the Sunday morning. We didn't have there was no pit complex back then. It was just like a carport and a timber wall.
Yeah, kind of like a NASCAR type of.
Yeah, there was nothing.
Yeah.
There was no pit. There was no like concrete barrier. So I think there was an Armco between the track and the pit lane.
Yep.
And I'm all suited up, and the race has started, and my head's spinning, and I, because I'm racing, I could actually walk over to the Armco fence where they would put the signs out for what your lap time or how many laps you've done.
Yeah, as you
and
would.
And here I am. I'm 20. What am I? I'm 23, 24 years of age.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hanging over the fence, going, "Oh wow, I'm racing Bathurst," you know.
Yeah.
Mike's come up the pit straight, and I looked at the car from a head-on view, and I could see that the windscreen was collapsed in, and the roof had a dent in it.
Yeah, right.
So I've run back to the pit to tell Bob Stevens, who was the team manager of that, that the car's got a broken windscreen.
Yeah.
And we all know in watching other races in the past that if you break the front windscreen, you've got to stop, remove it, and take the back window out, whatever.
Yeah.
So I hadn't even thought about helmets or visor or anything. But by the time I went and told Bob what was going on, someone, I think from Larry Perkins' team, came up and said, "Your car's crashed. The car's rolled at the end of Conrod."
Yeah.
And as it would be, what I found out from good friends at Gary Wilmington, who was racing the Jaguar at the time, he said that him and Mike were neck to neck down Conrod. And remember, in those days there was no spoilers, no front wings, or front splitters. There was no rear. Yeah,
it was just more raw racing.
They were just because Jaguar and a VK Commodore. And on the big hump at the end of Conrad, they used to leave the ground. So they were that fast. They're doing about 280 kilometers per hour. They'd leave the ground, and you'd have to actually take your foot off the throttle so you didn't over rev it in midair, and then wait till the wheels landed. And by the time they landed, you would have got to the 300 metre marker, so you had to get on the brakes.
Yeah.
So what Gary said was that Mike was beside him, and as they got to the last hump, the draft between the two cars, usually either suck you together, like they suck doors door to door, or it depends on how they are, if the air draft will actually pushes you apart. So it did so in this case, it must have pushed Mike out.
Yeah.
And in doing so, the car's left the ground, but he must have had his wheels on a slight angle. And as it's landed, it's just literally just gone where the wheels are pointed and straight into the bridge.
Yeah, right.
And stopped from probably 260 or 265 k's an hour to 0 in
No time.
2 metres.
Yeah, right. And
So
was
the
it
photographs I've seen on the
internet and stuff. Yeah.
shows the front of the VK was level with the windscreen. So you could just about could imagine pushing the front bumper bar back to the windscreen or the dashboard in the car. So where did the engine go? Where did the gearbox go? Where did the And anyway, and Mike, unfortunately, his body was found in the back seat of the car because the seat belt had broken and everything had, the steering column had
obviously destroyed itself.
And then he was pronounced. The thing about it is, I suppose when you look at it realistically, that race should have stopped because he was dead on the side. He was dead then. He wasn't dead in the hospital at Bathurst. He was
dead at the
dead
track.
at the track, and they really should have stopped the race for the rules.
Yeah,
but they dragged it out.
Yeah,
brought the doctor over to the scene.
Yeah,
and that was the year that was our first privateer win with Gricey. Remember?
Yeah. That's pretty cool. Yeah. So obviously in 1991 you were doing the production. We're going back to the 90s
again.
Now.
Okay,
in the 90s. So we'll talk about your 90s time. You were big into the production cars before you got into Formula Ford.
That's right. Yeah. So when Paul helped me get involved with production cars again, the EA Falcon. The following year, I think it was a 12-hour race at Bathurst.
Yep.
In 91.
Yeah,
I'm sure there was. And Paul wanted me to prepare the car and he would co-drive with me.
Yeah.
And I think we bought a brand new VN Commodore because at the time we felt that a V6 VN was the faster of the two 6 cylinders. So that we'd have one of each. So we had a Falcon and a Holden. And then we rocked up to Bathurst, and I do remember, I think Paul did the old push the gear lever forward before the brake pedal went on to slow the car up, and the old engine turned itself inside out, and
fucking hell,
con rods everywhere. So that ended, and I think that I suppose it was a bit of a sour taste in my mouth because all the amount of effort that I put into it, and suddenly the engine was exploded.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you enjoy much of your production car days though? Out of in that time, like we've obviously started from like the early '80s, late '70s to the '90s. What was your favourite period between those times? Do you have any specific moments that you liked?
I did ended up once I actually had my own production car. Once I bought my own Falcon, I went on to win. Practically, I won the Amaroo Park or the ARDC production car series twice.
Yep.
I went on, the first year I took on the Australian Championship. I was runner-up to Kent Yilden in my first go at it. So it's the first time I actually travelled all of Australia doing all the tracks. So I was runner-up to Kent my first go. So then I realised, I'm actually doing all right here. So that took me into the second year, which is then 92.
Yep.
And I was third outright that year. And then by the time 93 comes along, as we'd all remember, Mike Raymond decided that that Group A wasn't working, Sierras and Nissans.
He was the main promoter back then. I don't really know.
Yeah, well, Mike was the big wig when it came to Channel 7.
Yeah, okay.
And so he wanted to make a Ford versus Holden series.
So he created Supercars essentially, did he?
Well, effectively in 93, that was the start of Supercars.
Yeah, right.
Because as I say, it was the era of the Skylines and the Sierras.
Yeah,
it's then there was the smaller car classes and everything.
Yeah,
but it wasn't working. So Mike decided to get this V8 Holden Ford, which effectively ended my production car era in 93 because they didn't want to have They didn't want to have a Ford and Holden production car Australian National Championship. So I won the last real Australian Championship for production cars.
For actual production cars.
Because
not
after
supercars, but actual cars.
Production cars.
Yep.
Because after that, it went to front wheel drives.
Yep.
Then after that, it went to then they started letting, it was RX-7 turbos and Supras and it just
the
went
GDP
on.
production car.
And it got out of control financially because you couldn't buy then a second. I bought the second-hand production car, this Ford Falcon, off an old lady in Caringbah, and I think I paid $6,000 for it.
Yeah.
Built into a race car overnight, took it to Amaroo Park and won my first race. How you could tell me someone that could do that today, buy a brand new M4 BMW,
yeah,
build it
yeah.
himself, turn up and win his first race.
Yeah.
But you could back
That's
then.
rare. It's rare
you
these
can't.
days.
You can't.
I don't think. No, it wouldn't be happening
it
now.
doesn't happen.
You also gave truck racing, Australian truck racing, which I do remember a go in 1994.
That only happened again because there was no production car racing. Because 94 comes along and I'm basically on the sideline, scratching my ass going, now what do I do with myself?
Yeah. How'd you find truck racing? Because truck racing at its peak was pretty fucking cool.
I got to say, with the smoke that came into the cabins, the diesel smoke on the restarts, that was the worst part about it.
Yeah.
The handling they were absolutely terrible. The truck I raced, the one that I was asked to see how it'd go in, it had disc brakes on it. It had disc brake front end. It was an Isuzu SBR turbo with disc brakes.
Yeah.
So it was a bit of a weapon. It actually the little trucks, what they call it the light trucks. Yeah. We actually used to give the big trucks a run for their money because they were speed limited to 100 miles an hour, 160 k's. So as soon as they get to that, they cut off. Yeah. But the old little Isuzus, they were still screaming. Yeah. And they handled like rubbish. Yeah. But I did the whole national championship where I did Lakeside, Malala, Sandown, Amaroo Park several times, Barbagallo. So it was a pretty big deal.
Yeah, they had some characters, and they had Rodney Crick, I think, back then. Do you remember much of the characters back then? Because that was huge. It was huge.
I was actually good mates with the late Rodney Crick because him and I worked for Ian Luff doing driver training at Amaroo Park back then. He always needed people to help him with his driving courses or his high performance course or whatever he was doing. So Rodney was there. That was actually in the days when Mark Webber was working for Luffy as an instructor as well. Yeah, when he was first started his career.
Yeah, right. But
as far as getting into character in the trucks, I don't really know all the truck drivers, but I do know Rodney quite well, the late Rodney Crick, and but I ended up winning the series. Like the truck.
You won in the light truck.
I won the light truck. I became Australian champion.
In the light truck, but ahead of the other trucks, I think.
That's right. They had the big trucks.
Yeah.
Which Rodney ended up winning the Australian championship on the big trucks, but I ended up winning the little trucks.
Yeah.
So it wasn't quite a big deal, but I suppose no one told you the story about how I fucked up the truck, do you?
No, you can tell that story.
You love this one. The second last round in 1994 was at Amaroo Park in the night.
Yep.
Now, in the night time at Amaroo Park, truck racing used to bring huge crowds. I mean...
Yeah. I kind of vaguely see...
30,000 people would line the Amaroo Park for the trucks.
Yeah, right.
Trucks were a pretty good crowd pull. Anyway.
Yeah.
Now, what used to piss me off is that Rodney always got to do the big burnout at the end of the race. If he'd win a race, he was allowed to do a burnout because they actually built a burnout pad on the main straight at Amaroo Park just out of the last turn. Yeah. So Rodney had an automatic Volvo, and he could just put his foot in the brake or whatever, lock, and he was able to smoke the tyres and do his big donuts.
Yeah, get the fans cheering.
Yeah, get the fans cheering. Anyway, so this night race meeting had ended. The last race of the night was ended about 10 p.m.
Yeah.
And I don't know what place I finished, but I'd won. By this stage, I'd had enough points. I'd won the Australian title, so I was Australian champion of the SBR light trucks. So I'm feeling pretty chuffed with myself. Mm-hmm. Anyway, at that stage, this is 94. So at that stage, I just met my girlfriend and now wife now, Jenny, and she was standing under the control tower with the owner of the truck, Paul Hay. They were standing there watching the race. Yeah, and I thought it'd be a show off because this is what kind of a lunatic I am. Yeah, I've come over the dog leg, and if anyone knows Amaroo Park well, they know the dog leg. I've come over the dog leg. Yep. And I'm looking at, because there's lights back then so I could see that there must have been 20,000 spectators just on that hill. Yeah. Over the dog leg. I went, wow, look how many people are still here. so being the dickhead that I am, I've grabbed, because mine was manual. I didn't have an auto. Mine was manual. So I've slotted into second gear. Yeah. And it had this huge turbo. So I had to kind of hold the brake on and get some throttle going to get the turbo spinning up to get some boost. Yeah. Once it hit boost, it hit about 40 pounds of boost, and it cracked the rear wheels into wheel spin.
Holy shit!
I thought, and the thing just took off. Yeah. And I flicked onto the main straight, fully cocked up sideways, smoking the rear tyres of this Isuzu SBR. But I'd never done it on hot tyres. Yeah. Right. So I didn't know what to expect. Yeah. And if anyone knows Amaroo Park, on the left-hand side, the road kind of drops off quite sharply on the left-hand side. Anyway, I've gone off the road at full throttle in this truck and end-for-ended the truck. So I, like barrel rolled it like chassis, back wheels, chassis back wheels. Well, not rolled it side to side.
Yeah, you rolled
end for end.
Yeah.
I end-for-ended it. And
you're doing cartwheels into
the grass at the left in the dark.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm pinned because the roll cage of this SPR was connected to the chassis of the SPR, but the roll cage was wider than the chassis. So as it's rolled over, it's pushed the whole cabin of the truck down and bent it around the chassis. In doing so, it's pushed my helmet against the roof.
Yeah.
The steering wheel's against my guts.
Holy shit.
The windscreen's exploded. It's already gone. I'm laying on the side of it, and I've got the marshals are running over with their fire extinguishers, and they're trying to pull me out. And I'm pinned. I'm stuck between the steering wheel and the seat.
And this is before the hands device came in.
Yeah, there's no hands device. So I'm jammed in with the roof crushing my helmet, the steering wheel crushing my guts, an official trying to drag me, and I'm saying, no, don't, stop. Let me get myself, let me kind of turn the wheel, and as I'll turn the wheel, I'll kind of drag my body out. Yeah. And I've got out of the truck, and I'm going, oh, shit, that was big, wasn't it? Anyway, then I thought to myself, I know Paul, who owns this truck, is going to be standing with my girlfriend there in the control tower. So I went around the other side of the truck, and in front of the crowd, I got up on the truck and I put both my hands up, like as this the big, like as this is the stunt. This is the stunt of the night.
Like you've got this on YouTube.
As if it was like deliberate. Yeah. And the crowd just friggin' erupted. They just thought, how good is this? We've just had a 20-lapper final of a truck race, and this idiot has barreled this truck after the checkered flag. Yeah.
And then he's celebrating.
And I'm celebrating behind the truck. So the crowd just cheered and roared. Yeah. And I walked back with the helmet all got back to the owner of the truck, and he just shook his head and he just couldn't fucking believe it.
He's going, you dickhead.
You dickhead. But I couldn't have been much. I couldn't have been too bad because he did rebuild the chassis and he did get us to West Australia for the final. Yeah. So that was a couple of weeks later. So I couldn't.
You couldn't say anything bad about him.
Couldn't have upset him too bad.
Yeah. Wow.
Holy shit. And then the girlfriend at the time, she's saying, "Do you really? You really should be doing this stuff?" Yeah. Yeah, so
and she's still around now.
Oh, well 20 odd years later, we're still married.
The truck racing crash sealed the deal.
She's seen it all. It's unreal. Yeah. But that's my claim to fame in truck racing. I'll win the title at the end of a race and then ride her off.
We'll go a bit off topic here with Ronnie Crick here, right? You've obviously know Cameron Crick. He's now in Supercars. What do you think about that bloke? Yeah, well, he's a try. I'll give him this. I've actually worked with Cameron and a lot of these young blokes, and he's such a try. I can't believe how hard he tries in different categories to try to work his way. Yeah, because Supercars we all feel is the pinnacle. Yeah, you might be doing Formula Ford yourself. Yeah, I just like it just for that enjoyment. But it seems that if you crack a supercar drive, you've made it. You've kind of made it. Yeah. But you only made it if you're not paying for it. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Which is very, very rare these days. Yeah. So, I wish him all the best. It's certainly going to be a step up from last time he was racing the Utes. Those horrible shitbox Ute things. Yeah. The most ugliest category I've seen in my life. How long that lasts for it's got me. They're just... It's just what a stupid idea. Get a diesel engine truck. Yeah. Build it and then stick a big V8 in it. Yeah. Right? How dumb's that? Yeah. What a stupid category. Yeah. And that's another part about my gripe with this sport is we have got too many categories that compete against the same market, the same sponsor base, the same TV coverage base, and that's why this TCR and all this getting on the stand and whatever is now. It's like, holy shit, there's going to be this. It'll be exactly. This is no difference to what happened when I was the ARDC director back in 1997. Yep. When the ARDC was tackling or fighting against Toka versus Tiga. Yep. Which is 2 litres versus 5 litres. Yeah. Exactly. So it's only going to happen again. I can see that. Yep. And it's now essentially it is. There's got to be at least 30 categories in this. It's going to happen again. Now. It's going to happen again. You can't get TCR cars battling for TV against V8s. No. No, it's
Not gonna
stupid.
happen.
It's stupid. We were talking about, obviously, you've done a lot, you just brought up my Formula Ford racing slightly there. But you got into Formula Ford racing in 1995,
After
and
the
you
truck.
raced after trucks. Yeah, after trucks. You've gone from racing a big fucking truck to racing this small open wheeler race car against Mark Webber and Jason Bright, who went on to big
And you know
things.
how I could tell you exactly how this happened, right? You'll love this story.
Yeah.
At the end of 1994, I was working for Luffy and with Rodney.
Yeah.
And Mark. Right?
Yeah.
So we were all just buddies, right?
Yeah.
And Luffy used to have these track days that you could drive a Formula Ford. So he used to hire a couple of Swifts of a guy used to prep them. They were full race cars. They weren't shitbox. They were real race cars.
Yeah, I've got a Swift of my own.
So anyway, Luffy put these days together at Amaroo Park South Circuit where I think he's always a motivational guy. He's always getting a group of guys together, and he's it's all go, and it's whoever's the closest in lap times, and you win a trophy.
Warren's very similar.
Yeah, anyway. So I did one event, and it rained.
Yeah.
Right now, how Luffy does the day. Whoever's the fastest driver and has the closest split over so many laps. So if you did 10 laps and you're only 0.2 of a second apart, you won the day.
Yeah.
So anyway, I won the day in the wet, but it was a bit unfair because all the other guys were pretty inexperienced, so it really was a bit unfair.
Yeah.
So I arranged another one a bit later down the and it was a full dry day. And at the end of it, again, I won it. And we were doing some serious times. We were like doing mid-40s around there on the South Circuit.
Yeah, right.
And and I said, actually, I like these things,
Yeah, they're a bit fun.
They're a bit of fun,
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
if you remember in 1994, I also did the Bathurst 12-hour with Ian Luff as a co-driver in the production car that I converted into LPG.
Yeah, right.
If you remember that time?
Yeah.
Anyway, so we were sponsored at that stage for that 12-hour with Fairfax newspapers or community newspapers. So at the end of 94, I already had a relationship with the boss of Fairfax community newspapers.
Yeah.
And I asked him to support me for a one-off. I ran the Bathurst support race in a Formula Ford. We hired a Swift from another guy, not the same guys that does it, but we hired another guy. And Wayne Boatwright was his name, because Wayne ended up running the Holden stunt driving thing.
Yeah.
So hired
cool.
a Formula Ford off Wayne to do a one-off around Bathurst for the support of that year, that Bathurst 1000 that year.
Yeah.
And I did all right for a rookie, and the only thing I did learn about Conrod Straight in a Formula Ford is, and which I'd never had an open wheeler, is how much your head buffets.
Oh yeah.
And I'm going down Conrod Straight, and I honestly couldn't see
shit.
I couldn't see the chase.
Yeah.
Because at maximum speed, your eyes are shuddering.
Yep.
And I had to actually go to a sponsor of mine called SPV Racing, and he had a special helmet that had special flutes in the top or whatever that actually stopped the buffeting.
Yep.
So I could see
kind of push you down a bit.
Yeah. Whatever it had all the special things on it, and the lip under the chin was all designed for an open wheeler.
Yeah.
And so I had to get the right helmet. So I anyway, cut a long story short again, into 94, I had the opportunity. Fairfax community newspapers were doing a promotion where they were doing a Take a Speed Off the Roads campaign using Luffy.
Yep.
And we ended up buying a second-hand Van Diemen RF94.
Which is still popular to this day.
Well, this car's still around. And this RF94 was almost a championship-winning model, because at the stage, the guy that had the one that Jason Bright, he had an RF95, and then Mark Webber had an RF95. But my RF94 had the same front suspension, it was the monoshock.
Yep.
And you love this story. I couldn't fit in the thing, right? Because I'm a big bloke. I'm not a 60-kilogram little rabbit. I do remember it distinctly because the lady that ran Formula Ford at the time,
Margaret Hardy.
Mark Hardy.
Yep.
She every race we raced Formula Ford, we get to the weighbridge and she just waved me on. And
this bloke, and just kidding.
I used to get a bit insulted. I go, why? She said, Well, look at you. You're bloody twice the size of these other kids. You know? So its car and driver weight combined was 495.
Yeah. Yep.
And I was 95 kilos. So we had to get the car to 400. And the way we did that is we took the bottom floor off it and replaced it with aluminium. Instead of having stainless steel, it was aluminium.
I've done that trick before.
So, but you remember, you've got this aluminium plate, half an inch off the ground, and your arse and your other bits are just that little bit higher.
Yeah,
so it was always a risk.
So Formula Ford, you won the rookie. Did you win the rookie of the year?
Yeah. Now, but getting back to the story about me not fitting in it.
Yeah.
Luckily enough, I got to know over the years a bloke called Steve Knott, the late Steve Knott. Mm-hmm. He was the Van Diemen importer with Greg Siddle.
Yep.
They also used to share a factory at Guildford with Harry Galloway, who was at that stage a great engineer.
Yep.
So I said to Harry, I can't fit in this Formula Ford. I could fit in the Swifts, okay, but the chassis of the Van Diemen's, she's a bit narrow.
Yeah.
And also I have a bent leg. My right leg, when I go for the brake pedal, was actually hitting the throttle. So he had to actually modify the whole footwell of this Van Diemen so that the pedals were actually outside the car. So he had to build the whole footwell, and he actually had to scallop the I don't know what you call it, but it's where the steering wheel connected, so I could get my knees through.
Yeah.
So it was a custom built Van Diemen for
you
for a fat old
for a
bloke.
big bloke.
No, actually I wasn't old. I was only so I was 33 when I did that.
Yeah. Do you know where that Van Diemen is now?
Yeah, it's Leanne Tander's car. It was they changed it to a Stealth.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so
no shit.
That's still going. Yeah, it's still going. A fast car. Yeah, no, so that was, and look, I got to admit, that was another year that I wanted to prove myself because I might have won an Australian title in production cars. I might have won an Australian title in truck racing.
Yeah. I
might have been, Calder Park Super Series. I'd won at AUSCAR racing down at the Thunderdome. Mm-hmm. But you still always got to prove yourself because the old saying goes, you're only as good as your last race.
That's so true.
Event, right? You're only as good as your last race.
Yep. Not wrong.
So this Formula Ford era, I've actually qualified myself within a tenth of a second to Mark Webber twice.
Yeah.
A tenth of a second to Jason Bright.
Yeah.
A tenth of a second to Gavin Monahan or Jason
Bargwanna
Bargwanna or
yep.
And I'm thinking to myself, I can't be too bad for an old bloke,
Yeah.
And the only reason that I actually talked Fairfax community papers into getting this Formula Ford and the trailer and bits was because I asked what category would get some coverage, some TV. And at that time, the Formula Fords were following the main championship.
Do you reckon that it should go back now?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All these other bullshit they can. How they took it away from a national title status is just criminal cams and their freaking wisdoms.
Well, I love it. As you know, I race Formula Ford all the time.
And I tell you, and the Kent series, which I had the Kent, I mean, there was nothing wrong with them.
No. They're competitive as fuck.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So obviously in '95, you enjoyed your time in Formula Ford. Finally, you go, you know what? You crack you bite the apple and go, I'm going to go to Supercars. No, you didn't go to Supercars then.
Yeah, it did, but it didn't happen that way.
Oh, okay. How did it happen?
How it happened was that I went to a non-championship race in West Australia, and I qualified second row, and there was only I was third outright. But it was a non-championship, so there was no points. But it had TV, it had Channel 7 coverage.
Yep.
And some of my pit crew were saying to me that I wasn't coming onto the main straight at Barbagallo quite as quick as some of the other guys. And I said, well, it can't be too bad. I said, the only guy in front of me is Aaron McNally and Ray Stubber, and I
know those two blokes. Stubber's still racing today.
Yeah, I had Garth Tander beside me.
Yep.
There was McNally. I remember this day. And we're talking 1995. I still remember their names.
Yeah.
There's Aaron McNally, and remember the McNally family are now racing in the Utes and all.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So you got McNally, you've got Stubber, Garth Tander beside me. So I didn't think I was doing too bad. Anyway,
yeah, you got some names beside you.
So I think I had Bargwanna behind me. Anyway, so first race, I've come down the hill, and all overnight I'm thinking, I'll prove my pit crew wrong. I'll come onto the main straight faster. Well, I did, didn't I? I came onto it so fast that I hit the curb on the outside. And for anyone that knows Barbagallo, that curb's pretty high.
Yeah.
And once you get all four wheels off the ground, you're in deep shit.
Yeah.
Because it's a canoe.
Yeah.
And I end up going into the pits.
Yeah.
Full bore.
Yeah.
And stop dead on the tractor tire.
Yeah.
and hit it so hard that it collapsed all the suspension, knocked me unconscious.
Holy shit.
And so I'm being dragged out of the car. That's what those things on the top of your race suit are for. That's so they can pull you out. So,
right.
And here I am, 95 kilos, dead weight, being dragged out of a Formula Ford, delayed coverage. So my wife then, sorry, not we weren't married then. No, hang on. No, we weren't married then because 95. So we only wasn't engaged. No, still girlfriend anyway.
Yep.
She's watching on TV.
Yep.
Watching me get almost killed in a Formula Ford.
Yeah.
So anyway, we got back to Sydney with the car, rebuilt the whole car.
Yep.
Didn't crack test things. Got to Amaroo Park, come over the dog leg, up the flip-flop full bore in qualifying. Bang, crashed it again. Straight into the concrete.
Oh, 2 from 2.
2 races in a row, wrecked the car twice.
Yeah.
So my brain's going, oh, fuck. And then, so the sponsor then turns around.
Yeah.
Ian turned around from Fairfax. He says, Mal, I'm not helping you to get to your grave earlier. I'm helping you to make it into as a racing career, right?
Yeah.
What can we do? Where can we go? I said, well, there's nowhere we can go, Ian, except V8s.
Yeah.
That's the logical.
Yeah.
How much are they? So obviously the deal was done. We went and bought a VS, or actually it was a VR Commodore of Pinnacle Motorsport in Queensland.
Yep.
Who had been engineered by Steve Knott, the late Steve Knott. So I thought, perfect. Steve knows the car.
Yep.
I go to Queensland. I pick it up from a guy called Mike Freeman. I do a test drive at Lakeside. Suddenly I'm a Group A driver. Beautiful. But I still remember my first laps around Lakeside in it. I thought, oh, I'm going great guns. And then I realised I was only on half throttle. I hadn't pushed the throttle hard enough to open it to fully up.
Yeah.
Because they said, no, it's got more to go than that. So, young Cricky, wait till he opens a full throttle up on a 650 horsepower.
In a supercar.
Yeah, and see what it feels like.
Then you can talk to him after that because he'll witness it from a V8 Ute to a supercar.
Yeah, so that's how I got to V8s.
Yeah.
Well, simply because I'd crashed the Formula Ford twice.
Enough times that your sponsor just decided to move on.
That's it. We don't want to don't kill yourself. You know, and because as you know, to drive Formula Ford, you're on the limit. It's 100%. It's mechanical grip, and it's just 100% concentration. And mate, the amount of times I saw Jason Bright go off the track in that championship-winning year, you know, when you think about it, how many times has Jason spat a car on a fence?
Oh, heaps.
In practice,
plenty of times. Yeah, heaps.
Or race. I mean, he's lucky to won as much as he's done. He's certainly stuck it in a few times.
Yeah, he's always given it a go, Jason.
Well, you look at Bathurst, the year he won Bathurst in '98 with Stephen Richards. He crashed it in qualifying, remember?
Yeah,
practice.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Right, 12-hour, getting the driver Ferrari, remember? Stuck it in. Withdraw the car. You think about it.
He just happened to win championships.
Not knocking you, Jason. Not knocking you. Just you've had a few crashes. Not.
He's fast, but he has his moments. He has his moments, which is fair enough. Some race car drivers are super smooth. Some guys are just kamikaze, but happen to still win championships because they're quick. Right. But that's the name of the game. That's the name of the game. So you've obviously you've bought the Pinnacle Holden VR.
Yeah.
That was that turned into your like infamous black and because that's how I contacted you, because I remember as a kid watching Supercars. That was literally the car that I always remember on the track.
And the reason I did that is because I go back to the production car. That was a black car, and I used to paint yellow wheels on it because my production cars were red, and I used to paint the wheels gold, so it looked like the Shell car, looked like a Shell, Sierra type thing.
Yeah.
And but then when we went to black with Flopman, with Paul Flopman, the cars were black.
Yeah.
And everyone said, you got to make it stand out. So we always put the fluoro skirts and the fluoro on the grille and the fluoro wheels, and so it was actually fluoro yellow.
Yeah, right.
Which looked like lime green.
Yeah, yeah.
But it did stand out because it was exactly the same as the Synovus Alan Moffat Falcon. Remember, he had the same colour scheme in that.
Yep.
We always thought he copied us, but
so it's a bit of tit for tat, going back and forth and stuff like that. But so, do you remember Supercars back then, opposed to now, where it's the whole Rex series, like the Rex, and it's really tight. Back then, the Privateers and the Supercars, it was like at least a 40-car grid, and a bloke could turn up who was a businessman and just turn up on the track.
Yeah, that's right.
Do you remember much of those times?
Well, 96, I didn't have a good run at all because, as you may remember, they actually had a championship race at Bathurst in the beginning of 1996. So my first attempt to race a V8 was at Bathurst in, I think, March or April, and my engine blew up in practice.
Yeah.
It cracked the crankshaft. So I went back to Pinnacle and I said, well, you know that car we just paid a lot of money for? And the engine was built by Rob Benson, which is RAD Engines in Melbourne. And they felt, I suppose you'd say they felt a little bit guilty, but stiff shit, you bought a second-hand car.
Yeah.
But the engine was fresh.
Yeah.
So it cracked the crankshaft. So Rob did a beaut job and he changed the crankshaft. He covered the cost of the part and I covered the cost of his labour.
Yeah.
And I dropped it off and put it. So I wrecked the beginning of '96 because the engine failed. But what I can say is that I then took it to Calder Park, and they had They used to have the Dash for Cash on the Sunday morning.
I remember that
Privateer race.
Yep.
So my first race in this Pinnacle car, first race at Calder Park in whatever month it was.
Yep.
I've pulled second row of the grid. So I've had Stephen Richards in front of me, Stephen Ellery,
Yep.
and Max Dumsney.
Right? Sprint car driver. Yep.
And he was in a Group A Falcon.
Yeah.
And
I do remember that car. Vaguely.
So we've taken off from the start, and I think it was either 5 or 6 lap race. Anyway, and I won the thing. I've won the first race. I've actually got into turn 1 first. But I'd been to Calder because I'd raced in production car days, so I kind of knew Calder well. And I thought, how good's this? You know, and because the car was brand new at the time, I had the best paint job. I won best presented car, got awarded that, and TV coverage. And so Steve Knott, the late Steve Knott, rings me up on the phone. He goes, Mal, he says, well done. He says, now I want you to retire. I said, what? He says, well, you bought my old car off us. You've won in your first race. You never, ever, it's all going to be downhill from now on. Just give up. Right in front.
Telling you to retire.
Just say retire now.
Yeah.
Just give it up.
Yeah.
Pack it up and go home.
Yeah.
I said, oh, thanks, Steve. Like, you know, that's good on you. You know?
Yeah.
Good bit of encouragement. But no.
Yeah. So who'd you race? You raced 96. You raced with Terry Shield. Was that?
Yeah, 96 was my first Bathurst 1000 since Mike Bergman. So that was 10 years later. And Terry Shield was put onto me through Ross Williams, who was the guy who ran a Commodore V6 production car against me in the production car championship when he had Tony Scott driving for him.
Yeah.
And when I went to Ross to talk about Bathurst, he said, why don't you get Terry Shield? He said, mate, he's a professional driver, blah, blah, blah. I said, oh, great. Let's get Terry. So I rang him up, and he's half retired at this stage, you know?
Yeah.
And he goes, I haven't got a license anymore. He said, I need a license. So, well, we better get a license. Get you back behind the wheel. And so I learned a lot from Terry that year. But unfortunately, back then it was like he was the co-driver, so he did second stint and fourth stint, and I did first, third, and fifth. And he didn't make the last lap of his second stint and stuck into the fence. He did exactly like you see Chaz Mostert did, and they smacked the wall on the right and then straight into the wall on the left, and
just that inch too far.
And I didn't, and I was pretty disappointed, and I didn't have any money to fix it either, because Fairfax's deal was they owned the car, but I had to pay all the running costs and repairs. Yeah. And Terry didn't pay for it, so Terry just said, "Oh, I'm sorry, shit happens," you know. And
sorry about that.
So luckily, I think it was Mark Larkin that said to me, "Why don't you get the TAFE College to fix it?" Because the TAFE colleges used to fix cars at Bathurst. He said, "Why don't you get TAFE to fix it out of the race?" So I went and contacted the head teacher at Wetherill Park TAFE panel.
Yeah, or the panel shop. Essentially like the learning curve. Yeah,
and they said, "That's a great idea." Well, and I supplied them. I plucked the motor out and got it all ready, and I gave them the parts. I got all brand new Holden parts, a chassis rail and guards and bonnet and whatever. And I left it there for over the Christmas period, and every kid got graded on their repair.
Yeah, right.
And it must have been a pretty good repair, because in 1997 I've turned up and started in a category called AMSCAR, which is the Privateer Cup.
Yep. Yeah.
All privateers at Amaroo Park and Eastern Creek.
Yeah.
And went on to win I won 6 in a row, and so must have been a pretty good repair. Yeah. pretty chuffed about that.
Yeah.
And it didn't cost anything.
Yeah. And then in 1998 you teamed up with Alan McCarthy, didn't you? In Supercars.
Yeah. Well, I went from 96 with Terry Shield, 97 was with Kevin Burton, another
Yep.
one of my friends. And then how Alan McCarthy happened was that in the AMSCAR series in 97, the only driver that really gave me any competition was Alan
Yeah.
in the AMSCAR.
And so you just brought him in as a
So
co-driver.
I rang him up and said, how would you like to share my Commodore at Bathurst? And then he watched how fast my car was because he couldn't beat me. Although he did beat me twice over east of Crick. I'll give him that.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we teamed up and it was a good combination because we ended up winning the Privateer Cup hands down and walked away with the prize.
How'd you start your hot laps business? Because obviously you had that hot laps business and you're actually giving people like a ride of a lifetime. And some people at Calder Park were doing it at the time. And now obviously you're doing it kind of now with John Boston. But how did that all happen?
Well, at the end of 1998, so I won. So here's a situation where I won the Privateer race. That year there was $30,000 in prize money.
Yep.
So everyone came out of the woodwork that I had money to. Oh, by the way, Mel, remember that thing here's the invoice. Oh, great. Yeah. So 99 comes along. Fairfax weren't really keen on spending much more money. I couldn't find any. They didn't have a problem with me using the car. If I found another sponsor, that was fine with them. So I had Victor Footwear, I had Champion Spark Plugs, people that had sponsored over the years. But 99 comes along, and I seriously couldn't find any money. And I went to the Bathurst 1000 99.
Yep.
And I was a corporate guest of Castrol because Castrol had sponsored me all over the years. So I'm sitting there with one of the bosses of Castrol and the promotions lady, Susie, and Bruce Raymond, and we're sitting there, and I'm watching the Bathurst 1000 in 99, and I watched everyone go through Hell Corner for the first half an hour of the race. And that year there was tons of privateers. There was tons of cars. There was professionals and privateers. And out of, say, 30 privateers, I reckon I saw 5 of them hit the apex.
Yeah.
And the rest of them missed the apex. I went, what am I doing? I've just won last year.
Yeah.
And I've got there's 20 guys there and they can't even fucking hit the apex.
Yeah.
So I'm shaking my head going, fuck, there's got to be some other way of making money out of this. But just before the end of that year, I had done a corporate day at Amaroo Park with my good mates of the HSV Owners Club at Amaroo Park, where I charged them all a bit of money to go for riding the car because I was trying to make some money.
Yeah.
And we had a pretty good day. All these blokes at the car club, they were all fairly cashed up. They all said, we'll pay. We understand. We'll pay to have a ride with you. And we did it with it. We had lunch involved. We did a ride in the morning. We had lunch break. And then they gave them another ride in the afternoon. So, Yep. And they thought it was great. So anyway, my brain's ticking over. I left just remember, I'd left the Bathurst 1000 mid-race.
Yeah.
I was totally over it.
Yeah.
And I'm driving. I'm on my own, mind you. I turned up on my own. I didn't have a girlfriend, wife. Didn't have anyone with me. I was on my own. Drove home, and I'm sitting here in there was a crash at Lithgow. I'm sitting in traffic. I'm going, I gotta work out a way of making money. So I'm thinking to myself, you know what? Why don't I use my contacts with Fairfax newspapers? They could be the advertising. I'll start a name up that's popular. So I thought I can't call myself V8 Supercar.
Yeah.
Because
they own that.
Because they own the name. So I couldn't call myself V8 Supercar Hot Laps or V8 Supercar Experience. So I thought, as the name, so my head's spinning on what do I do? So I thought if I just start a business where I could do hot laps and charge people a decent amount of money, I could do something. Anyway, got it. But literally Monday morning, I went and registered a business name. I went down to the Department of Fair Trading, called myself The Supercar Experience. So I didn't put the V8 in, just the. Went down to the bank, opened a bank account up. Went to the boss of Fairfax newspaper, said, "Can we run an ad? Like we advertise what I'm going to do at Amaroo Park, and we get a date booked. Then come the cams. Then come trying to get a permit. To run passengers.
With supercars.
Well, fuck me, it's like fucking getting blood out of a stone, dealing with cams.
Blood out of a rock.
Oh, unbelievable. Anyway, so as time went on, I managed to convince them that I could do it safely with race suits. I had to go and buy because I had some good friends in the sport. I had Anthony Robson at Race and Rally. He got me suits made up, and
Yeah.
you know, we supplied boots, and you know, we had brand new helmets, and
Yeah.
you know, I supplied gloves, and you know, so we had it. And we put a proper race seat in, a proper harness, and you know, 6-point harness, and so I pointed out to Cams that we could do it safely, and I did get a permit, and we ran our first event at the end of 1999. Christmas '99 was our first one, and then I met some people that were actually customers that turned around that lived close to Amaroo Park and said, oh, "If you need a hand, we're locals, you know." And at this stage, I didn't live near Amaroo Park. I lived over in Guyamere with then my I just got married. Yeah, because in '98 I got married. So '99's all happening, and by the time we got to 2000, I've had my first child. So I'm thinking, well, this is big. I have a mortgage. I've just got married. I have one child, and I started a business, a hot lap business, and I've got people booked in advance. So I think I can't race this car, or I'll be in deep shit. Yeah. But then the Vesco turns around and they start a privateer series and called it they call the first year the 2000. It wasn't called Konica.
Oh, Konica was the Konica series? No, it was the
no,
Fujitsu series.
No, it wasn't Fujitsu.
I do remember that.
But anyway, in 2000,
so they start that series.
They started a privateer series. Which Dean Canto ended up winning.
Yeah. That was the Konica Lights. Konica Lights. That's what it was called.
The lights. That's it. The V8 lights.
V8 lights. That's it. V8 lights. Correct.
That's right. Exactly.
There we go. We nailed it.
Yeah, we nailed it. So. So 2000, I'm thinking, this would be good because it's the same privateers that I know I can beat. Yep. And we're all going to be in the same tyre. It's going to be control tyre. Because when I raced in the main V8s for 96, 97 and 98, we were on a control Yokohama. They were on a Bridgestone or a Dunlop. They always had better tyres. So that's what used to shit me, you know?
I mean, the tyre war going on.
It was a tyre war. In 97, when I won the AMSCAR, it was a control tyre. It was a good year. And I won that. Yeah. So anyway, getting back to the this privateer series in 2000. Yep. I thought there's going to be a bit of TV. It could be money. But I started this hot lap business thinking, oh my god, what am I going to do? Yeah. And
crossroads.
So I'm always taking a risk. I'm a risk taker. Chris Murden put his VS Commodore on the market. Yep. And I'd raced with Chris in '99 at the Queensland 500. That's my own. Actually, that's the only race I did in '99 was with Chris.
You were on that in the pits documentary.
Yeah, I was in the pits.
Yeah, I love that documentary too.
A lot of people. I'm the first scene of that documentary. Yeah. Because they filmed what I said. Yeah. They filmed what I said and they put it in as the first take. Yeah. And they've come up to me and they've zoomed in on my Supercar experience logo on my shirt. And the first thing I said was, motorsport is like tearing up $100 bills in the shower. That's it. That makes the documentary. And that started the documentary. And then it went on from there. Yeah. And it's friggin' true. Like the amount of friggin' money we've torn up and it's literally washed down the drain. Yeah. You know? So it was a comment that people still bring up. Said, remember when you said that? I said, I do. Yeah. I think there was one guy, who wanted to work for Larry Perkins, didn't he? He went on to be a successful engineer. Yeah, Mahal. Yeah, that's Mahal. He's a great mate, and he's still there to this day, and he's gone to all of these Formula One teams, and he's a data expert, mate. He's went a long way with Mahal.
He believed in himself.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. Anyway, so 99 was that. So I raced with Chris, but unfortunately we had an engine failure. Because one of the boys put the lines on the dry sump pump the wrong way around. Instead of sucking out of the oil tank, it pushed the oil back into the tank and blew it up. Yeah. And so when that car went on the market, it went on the market without an engine because we had to give the engine back to Larry because it was a Larry customer car. So I bought the car off Chris to use it as the car for doing the hot laps in, and then keep my Pinnacle car to do the privateer races. Yeah. And as it worked out, I kind of juggled both. Used the Pinnacle car because I knew that was a better chassis, and got the Perkins chassis. Got an engine for it. Yep. Through help of good sponsors, and we actually did the Bathurst 1000 in 2000 with that car, with the Perkins car. But that gave me two cars, and my business got busier and busier. Because of the popularity of V8 Supercars at that stage, because it wasn't called V8 Supercars. Yeah. Right?
Yep.
It was just Group A touring cars at that stage. It wasn't a Vesco didn't turn into the V8 thing and what was
Yeah,
started,
2001,
97, 98, whatever.
Yeah.
Can't remember what years, but
Yep.
by the time I got to 2001, we had a Bathurst support race with privateers,
Yep.
and
You were under level 2 franchise at one point, didn't you?
yeah, I did have it by then because of my performances. They were offering franchises, which you had to pay for, but because of my performances, I actually got offered a level 2.
That was like before the wreck thing came in, wasn't it?
Yeah. So I got a level 2 franchise, paid whatever, thousands of dollars a year, and you're supposed to get a share of the take, and it never worked out. They didn't give any money.
Yeah.
Privateers were treated like shit.
Yeah.
I've listened to John Faulkner's podcast about how he was treated. He was level 1 franchise, and yeah.
And he was another character like yourself, you know what I mean? Trying to make it, and as you're right, it's true. They treated you guys like shit.
Yeah, in particular, I didn't know how bad he was treated until I heard what he had to say.
Yeah.
But anyway, it got to the stage where I was doing hot laps at Amaroo Park Raceway, and I did a bit at Eastern Creek.
Yep.
And I was doing a race meeting at Lakeside, for example, and had 35, 40 people booked in the following week.
Yep.
I'm thinking, what happens if I crash this car? So I was only ever driving 9/10 because I could not afford to stick it in.
Yep.
And so I was half using the what I call the Pinnacle car and half using the Smurden car.
Yep.
But I painted them both the same colours. And then I had one of the guys that I was doing driver training with, because driver training is the kind of way you make a bit of side money. You always at the track. A mate of mine called Gary Courtley. He said, "Well, why don't you just use both cars and do twice as many people?"
Yeah.
I went, "Fucking why not? Let's see if that works." I said, "Well, you'll have to drive one of the cars." And he said, "I'll do that." So he drove the Pinnacle car, I drove the Smurden car.
Yeah. And
one day we did 50 people.
Really?
And there was one Christmas event, we did 60 people.
Holy smokes.
And we did, there was one, I can't remember because...
How many laps did you do with them?
5 laps. The deal was five full laps. So it was a warm-up lap.
Yep.
5 full laps and a cool down.
Yep.
Including photographs of them in the car and lunch and drinks.
Yeah, right.
And it was $4.95.
And this is at Amaroo Park.
Amaroo Park.
Yep.
And there was one time I had a 2-day event. So I had nearly 55 people on 2 days. So there was 110 people at $500 a head. So do the maths, it worked out
Holy smokes.
It worked out quite.
That's bringing in the money.
It did.
That's paying off a lot of shit.
So and remembering at this stage, I got my first mortgage because I'd bought Ross Williams's acreage out there at Rossmore. I had all these loans that I'd borrowed money to buy things and paying off.
Yeah.
And life was good because that would allow me to buy the next car. So I ended up buying another Perkins chassis, which was the old Tony Evangelou car. Which I found a bit of history out through the sleuth of that one. Yep. And then every customer said to me, "Oh, do you have a Ford?" I never thought about that. So I ended up another car came on the market. Yep. In South Australia,
an EL Falcon.
And when I looked into the history of that car, it was a Tony Longhurst built car, was raced by Alan Jones and Adam Macro to...
Oh, the Komatsu car.
Komatsu car.
No way.
Because when I bought it, it was a Scotcher motorsport car.
Yeah.
Which a mate of mine, Adam Wallace, in South Australia had raced.
Yep.
And when I bought the car off the Scotcher team in South Australia, man, they gave me so many spare parts, so many spare brakes and spare axles and spare wheels and and all the pit equipment. Yeah. Because they were getting out. And so suddenly I've turned up at the hot lap business having 3 Holdens and a Ford. Yeah. So when you're running 4 cars, suddenly you can start booking in more people. So you can, instead of booking in 20, 30 or 40 people, you start booking in 50, 60 or 70 people. Yeah. Yeah, right. So, and then smokes. And then I decided to dress up one of my Mirage Cup cars in the same colour scheme, the black and the fluoro, the same colours, and started offering hot laps in a Mitsubishi for half the price. Yeah, right. And heaps of people took that up because they said, "Oh, I can't afford 500." Yeah, and so you just got more money from that. Heaps of money from the little. And your business, as you were saying off air when we first started,
it started at Amaroo Park, wasn't it? That was like your hub, and that's how your
Yeah, that
business.
was my
That's
hub.
how you were churning your money through
Yep.
for your business.
Yep.
And then as soon as that shut down, they were promising. I don't know this because I was a kid back then, but they were promising you another track, weren't they?
Well, the Perich family did say to a lot of us that they were going to build another track somewhere close,
Yep.
which never eventuated.
Yeah.
You know, so it was a bit of a shame for all of us, and and then suddenly Eastern Creek had the monopoly. They charge what they want to charge for track hire. Then another company ended up having the contract at Eastern Creek Raceway, or now Sydney Motorsport Park, and so I couldn't get back in there. I tried.
Yeah.
So by the end of 2010, when Amaroo Park finally closed shop
down, yeah.
that was the end of it for me.
That was it. That was it for you.
End of that part of my life.
Yeah.
So things only got better from there.
Yeah. This is the exciting part.
Like you know, when people say to me, you know, I hear the "oh woe is me" story. I probably heard the "oh woe" from the Cameron Cricks and all of them. "Oh woe is me" bullshit.
Yeah.
And I was 40 when my life started.
Yeah.
I tried to make as a race driver when I was
Yeah.
18, 19, 20, 21.
Yep.
Got to 40 and fucked it up. Thought,
Yep.
oh, well, I hadn't made it. Let's make it another way.
Yep.
Let's earn the money a different way.
Yep.
Let's work hard, pay off your mortgage. I've now got 2 beautiful girls. I've got a beautiful wife.
Yep.
I own 5 acres.
Yep.
I've owned 6 real supercars, not shitbox lookalike or
Yeah.
because there's plenty of them out there in the market. You know, like lookalike race cars.
Yeah.
No, life's good.
Yeah, right. Awesome. And that's when the whole, this is what I loved, because I loved that documentary of you at the Nurburgring.
Yep.
Before that whole started, like, you guys were like off the chops. There was girls making out on, like, there was crazy Germans. There was go-karts doing burnouts.
They've had to ban all that over the years. So that was filmed by a good mate of mine, Stewie Greaves, because his business was Adrenaline Video. So he was making money out of doing doco videos for people.
Yeah.
And he was just a sideline for him, but he did pretty good.
Yeah.
And he flew over with us in 2004 and 5 and 6.
Yeah.
And cut the video, and he spliced it all together, because there wasn't really a story on the Mirage Cup cars the first couple of years, but there was definitely a story taking a V8 supercar over there.
You're still close mates with Graham Alexander and all those blokes, are you?
Phil,
Phil.
yeah.
Phil.
Oh yeah, mate, obviously.
Yeah.
So, and you'll love how the story of the Nurburgring happened, because as I say, the Bathurst 24-hour ended in 2003.
Yeah.
When Ross put his hands up and said, too hard, too expensive, whatever.
Yeah.
And whether he was getting the support of the competitors, I don't know. I mean, I was there 100%. So end of 2004, and actually that brings me back to how privateers were treated. My last Bathurst in a V8 was 2003 with Grant Elliott in a AU Falcon.
Yep.
Right? Now, we finished last, I'll give you that, because we had a gearbox replacement during the race. We finished last, but we finished.
Yep. Still Bathurst.
Still Bathurst, you still finished, right? But the way privateers then got treated, like you had to turn up with a transporter, a proper transporter, not like a little transporter, a B double.
Yeah.
If you didn't have the B double and you didn't have the freaking corporate backing and you didn't have all your team in outfits and you didn't have corporate suite hiring, and they didn't want to know you. Yeah, so 2003 ended for a lot of people. So if you remember from 2004 on, no such thing as privateers.
That's true. That's when it ended.
That's when it ended, 2003.
Right. I was actually trying to pinpoint that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know the sport quite well, young man. I do it know well. I know how many people have done the wrong thing in this sport and pissed a lot of people off. Yeah. For their own greed or their own whatever. Yeah. So that turned me off completely. So by 2004, I had 3 Mirage Cup cars that had already just done 24-hour races. At 24-hour races without braking. That's pretty reliable. Yeah. Right? And I had drivers. I'd taken 3 drivers per car. You know, I even had that footballer guy drive me one.
Ackermanis? Was it Ackermanis?
No, it wasn't.
Jack Elsgood.
Jack Elsgood.
Jack Elsgood. I want to bring him into the studio eventually.
Mate, I can go through, if I could remember off the top of my head, I've had nearly 30-odd drivers through my Mirage Cup cars doing the 24-hour races at Bathurst, Nurburgring, Dubai, Sepang in Malaysia. I could probably name this at least 30 Australians that I've actually introduced to endurance racing.
Into the sport.
Through the Mirage Cup cars, which are front-wheel drive. People say, oh, they're shitbox fucking front-wheel drive. Man, they're not shitboxes. They were they were 950 kilograms with 130 horsepower, close ratio gearbox, a coilover adjustable KYB suspension, limited slip diff.
They had all the
Ralliart clutch, the Ralliart engine mounts, the Ralliart because it was factory Mitsubishi.
Yeah,
little rocket ships.
Yeah. There was one point which I see the footage is the two of your cars that actually pushed each other across the line to finish the Nurburgring.
we when you go to the Nurburgring, they show they had a driver's briefing. They have a what not to do.
Yeah.
They have a what not to do video. Is you're not allowed to push your fellow competitor across the start finish line.
Yeah.
We didn't know that, so we
Aussies turn over.
Our Aussie cars feature on the what not to do video.
Yeah, no, don't push each other across the start
Don't
finish
do
line.
this.
Yeah. But how did you find it? Like obviously going there in 2004, it was your first one. So 2006. So obviously you're improving in results, weren't you, or was it back and forth?
No. Well, the first year, we took 3 cars, but only ran 2.
Okay.
Because the third car, the drivers kind of ummed and ahed, so we didn't have enough drivers. So we took the third car fully prepped, but it was just a backup car, just spare.
Yep.
And the first 2 went really well. And like we were racing against factory, there was Minis, there was Corollas, there was we were in the small car class. So in the Nurburgring they probably have 18 classes.
Yep.
From 1600 cc's, the 2 litre, 2.5 litre, 3.5, 4, 6, and they went right up to 8 litres. And then they had
how
turbo.
big were the fields? 60 cars? No.
230 was average.
Holy smokes!
230 was average, and in our class we'd have at least 25 cars.
Holy shit!
So they used to start the race in three sections.
Yeah,
so they couldn't line them up. They couldn't line up every car on the grid and start the race. There's too many.
Holy
so it was 75 took off. Next 75 take off 5 minutes later. Yeah. And then whatever's left over next 5 minutes. So they always had a 5-minute gap between each group.
So if something happened with a car, you just throw it into a selected garage, and would people just randomly start help like you guys and then other crew members start trying to repair cars?
Not really, but you did have to share the garage with 6 to 7 teams.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So you just picture at Bathurst, you have 1 car per pit garage.
Yeah.
At the Nurburgring, it's 6 or 7 teams.
Yeah.
With all their tools, all their jacks, all their spare parts, all their people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was mad. Yeah. Mad. The whole thing's mad.
And you were quoted saying Bathurst is pretty much like a piece of piss compared to the Nurburgring, wasn't it? Like it's just totally different. You said that to the Germans, didn't you?
Yeah. Going around Bathurst is like kindergarten.
Yeah.
Because once you've been to the Nurburgring, it makes Bathurst look simple.
Yeah. It's just it's a crazy fucking track.
It's 26 kilometres per lap, and it takes it depends on the class of car and how fast you are. It takes you anywhere between 8 to 10 minutes to do 1 lap. So when you're doing practice or qualifying, and you've got half an hour, you get 3 laps. If you've got an hour session, you get 6 laps.
Yeah,
if that.
Yeah,
if you're lucky. So a lot of the drivers hardly got to do 1 or 2 laps before the race started.
Yeah,
in most cases.
Yeah, right. And the supercars you brought over was the Perkins car once, and then the GRM car, wasn't it, at the end?
Yeah, I took the Perkins car went twice.
Yeah,
because in 2000 go back to 2005. When I ran another couple of cars, we invited Adam Wallace from South Australia, who was at the stage one of my hot lap drivers.
And he was doing Super 2.
And he was doing Super 2 at the time, or Super 3,
whatever it's called, yeah.
So Adam came over to race in the teams, in the Mitsubishis, as did a lot of guys.
Yeah.
And on the aeroplane trip home, Adam says to me, why don't we bring my V8 back over here? I said, what? The one you just bought to run...
Supercars,
the Konica series, or the Fujitsu, the one that Paul Dumbrell just won. Yeah, the
dynamic car or whatever it was.
Series, that car, the one that Russell Ingall was top 2 or 3.
Yeah,
said, you sure you want to use that car? He said, yeah. So great. So that was yeah, that was like waving a red rag at a ball to me. Said, I'm in. If we can use your V8, let's make this happen.
What did the Germans think of the supercars?
Mate, to this day, honestly, I have more of a fan club in Germany than I have in Australia. My name's not well known in Australia because I didn't race it after 2003, as I said.
Yeah.
I did fuck all here. Most of my racing's been in Europe.
As you said, you didn't have the corporate, like the fully corporate backing and the big ass trailers and the
So
whatnot.
so my corporate backing, the Nurburgring, was drivers.
Yeah.
Simple. They want to race. They haven't got a toolbox. They haven't got a trailer. They haven't got a pit crew. But they've got talent and a helmet.
Yep.
Good.
Yep.
I'll do it. Just pay me.
Yeah. All those drivers in that documentary that I watched, and even the results and stuff, they were just, as you said, you just brought in talented drivers with a budget to do it properly.
Yep. And I always always the deal was I got to start the race. Whatever car I'd prepared, the deal always I started the race. I did qualifying and
which is fair enough.
So I get the fun.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair enough.
And then
you had also the experience essentially bringing all the cars over there. So that makes sense though, you know?
I remember the first time I went over in 2004, Stewie Greaves was the one that recommended I do it. I said, he said, why don't we race the Nurburgring 24 hours? I said, and stupid me said, where's that? He goes, Germany. He said, I'll send you a YouTube clip and you can have a watch. Yeah. And like honestly, I didn't know there was a race called the Nurburgring. I think last month or whatever, it was the 60th running or something. So it's been running for a while. And
you hadn't been out of Australia.
No, I had been out once in New Zealand. I raced a production car in the Wellington street race. Yep. And I
remember that.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's my only time out of Australia. And so I had never been to Europe. I didn't know what to expect.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but you had the Perkins car first. The GRM car was the Perkins. So the Ingle car was the first one that went over.
The Perkins car went over. That was owned by Adam. But what I did is I went and bought an engine and a sequential gearbox off Gary Rogers. Because what happened was I knew from experience that a H pattern gearbox with inexperienced drivers through the night through an endurance race was a recipe for grabbing the wrong gear. Yeah. So we had to go sequential, which is what the Bathurst Monaros. So what I did was I bought the stuff off the Monaros.
Yeah, right.
So when I went to when I went to Gary Rogers, I knew he had some bits. So I ended up buying one of their gearboxes. I bought their wheels. I bought the 18-inch wheels off the Monaros. So I didn't buy their rears, just the fronts, which were 11 inches wide by 18. Because that way I could fit tyres to them, because you couldn't buy 17-inch slicks in Europe. Yeah. They didn't make them. Yeah. Because Australia's a different...
Yeah, just a total different beast. Yeah, right. And so you did the supercars, you brought the Mirages over. At the next time, when was that period where you went to, like, you had that Aston... Was that Aston Martin the next period?
No. Well, how it went, first time of the V8 was 06. Yep. And I started the race, did my first stint, swapped to Adam. Adam unfortunately made a bit of a braking error across the Brideside Bridge and stuck it in, which you saw in the doco. Yep. Because Anthony and Kevin hadn't had a steer, I felt a bit guilty about that, so I repaired the car, and we took it back again in 07. So that way that both Anthony and Kevin could have a steer, and so the way we did it again, I started the race, then Robbo, KB, and then Adam got to do the... But it went on quite well, and we ended up finishing 5th in class, and it was to finish over there is
fucking...
It's a big deal. It's a big deal to finish the Nurburgring, especially night time and whatever.
All those different types of cars.
Yeah. And so the Aston deal didn't come along till after I'd also then raced the Gary Rogers GRM Commodore in 08 and 9. I skipped 10 with the Commodore and didn't come back to 11. I drove a different car in 10. Drove a Subaru and Preza.
Yeah, right. How'd the Subaru go? Like, was different? Because I remember in the documentary as well, there was Chris Atkinson over there as well, wasn't he? Yeah. So did that happen through Chris at all, or was it through someone else?
No. All these stories happen because we shared a house. Yep. So just remember, Nurburgring's 26 kilometres a lap. So inside the circuit is heaps of townships in Germany. So we were in a bed and breakfast house in the middle of, and we were sharing the house with another British team, which was continually running this Subaru. Yep. And what happened in 2010, is they rang me up and they said, well, we want to run again, but our driver, which was an Australian guy called Lyndon Reithmiller, he'd just got killed in an avalanche in a snow skiing incident in New Zealand.
Wow.
So poor old Lyndon, he got killed, and they wanted to still race the car. So they said, well, you've been here several times and you got the licensing requirements, blah, blah, blah. Can you take Lyndon's place? Oh, sure, I'll do that.
Yep.
But then it got really serious because this team wanted to win.
Yeah. Well, that's good because you are wanting to win anyway.
Yeah. And so so there's another documentary that's been done by Stuart, and it's called which hasn't been, I don't know why it's somewhere, it's bits and pieces on the internet, and it's called it'll come to me. Yeah. But it's another doco where that particular year, 2010, there must have been about 30 Aussies were there in separate cars. And there was guys running in a Volvo, there was guys running in a BMW.
Yeah, that was when my stepdad was over there.
There was a guy running, there was a heap of us.
Yeah, there was a
heap of us in different categories.
You'd essentially started that, really.
Well, I felt I did.
Yeah.
I felt I did.
I think you did.
Well, I still have the record, 13 consecutive Nurburgrings.
Yeah.
And with how many finishes? 13, 11? I only DNF twice.
Yeah, right.
That was the one with Adam crashed, and then one where we didn't get classified because we didn't have enough laps because we had a clutch slipping and But every other time, the Aston Martin deal, that was 100% finishing record. That was from 2012 to 2016, five in a row.
Yeah, that was a factory deal.
That's a factory deal. Yeah,
that was factory. How was that going from like the supercars level to like a factory Aston Martin?
Well, we'd gone from my wife making sandwiches in the shipping container at the back of the pits with the barbie for for afternoon tea, and so we went from that to 5-star, go across the hotel, which is called the Dorint, and having 5-star hospitality and sleeping in a hotel, 5-star hotel, and having brand new race suits and brand new balaclavas given to you and brand new.
Really?
Yeah. So it went from.
I bet Jen was loving that. And the kids.
She was loving
it. Did the kids ever go over?
Kids went through 2 or 3 times. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, right. Yeah. Did the girls actually like racing, or they're just like, Dad races cars?
No, they love it.
They do?
Yeah, they love. They want me to get back into it now.
Really?
Yeah, because they're at the age where they want to be my pit lane girls.
Yeah.
You know, because they're both tall and beautiful, so they want to have the flags and
So they want to be part of it.
They want to be part of it now. But the trouble is, when it all started to end for me in the Aston, when that all went, it was 2016. Well, at that stage, M was only 13 years old and Olivia was 16. Well, they were still at school. They hadn't even finished high school.
Yeah. So they were only really seeing it, but they couldn't really be there.
No, not all the time. I did take them on a couple of times. They went over when they were little, which you saw in the video.
Yeah.
And then they went back later, but it was just too hard. I couldn't take the family every year. Just 4 airfares. And,
it's expensive as shit.
You know, there was one year that how we got the airfares bought was that I sold some of my Mirage Cup cars.
Yeah.
Took that money to the Toyota dealer.
Yeah.
To buy the family Prado, the tow car, the brand new car. Said to the Toyota dealer, if you take it on Amex, I'll pay for it right now, but don't charge me a fee. So I bought a $62,000 car on Amex, got the Qantas frequent flyer points, and used those points to fly to Germany for me and Jen, and then because I put it in the business name, claim back the GST.
That's bloody smart, though.
That was a good year, that one.
That's what you want.
Absolutely.
So you raced the Aston Martin for I think it was 5 years.
5 years.
5 years it was. Yeah.
5 in a row.
And so Jen obviously would have loved going from the barbecue thing to the full hotel thing.
Yeah. But then she was hanging around with all these ladies, because obviously the co-drivers with some of the teams, they'd be hanging around, and so they'd say to Jen, what car does your husband drive? Oh, a Toyota. We've got the Ferrari next to the Aston Martin. It's next to the Lamborghini, and we go, oh my god.
And you go, no.
That's okay. No, so yeah, no.
What do you think about rivals who I've had on here before, Aaron McGill and Richard Mork and stuff? What do you think about their career trajectory? What do you think about Morky racing in the Utes thing and whatnot? Do you really care about that stuff, or you just think
I don't. I didn't follow it.
You don't follow it at all?
I didn't follow it at all. Yeah. And I think Aaron, the only reason I know Aaron is that he actually worked for Luffy.
Yeah.
So again, because of our driver training experience and working with them, I got to know Aaron. I got to know, say, Rodney Crick and Mark Webber and You know?
Yeah.
And it's actually, the funny thing about Mark Webber is I knew he was a talent, because getting back to your Formula 4, this is another thing you won't know.
I definitely won't know this
This
one.
is a good story. End of 1995, Mark Webber actually kicked everyone's asses at Phillip Island in the wet, like lapped the field. Did not just smoke, just fucking kick their asses, right?
Wow. Yep.
It was a wet event. You just go onto YouTube and look it up, right?
Yep.
So when we left Phillip Island in late 95, it was arranged that we'd go to Calder Park Thunderdome to do a test day in both Mark driving his RF95 and me driving my RF94, and I would be on racing Avon slicks, and Mark would be on treaded Avons, which is the control tyre.
Yep.
So we were looking at running a one-make series, or Formula 4, which is going to be called like they do in America with Formula 4 2000. So it was going to be support category to NASCAR.
Yeah.
So they sent us out to do some laps NASCAR direction, so it was anti-clockwise.
Yep.
And the reason that they got me involved is because I'd raced the Thunderdome in the late 80s and early 90s. So Steve Knott, who was the importer, and Greg Siddle, who was the importer, they said, well, you're the not expert, but you're the experienced driver.
Yeah.
And Mark can drive. And, you know, what I'm saying about Mark Webber is that I'm going around Calder Park flat out, absolutely, like not lifting at all, like flat, just hold it flat.
Yeah.
We were doing lap times equivalent and faster than NASCAR.
Yeah.
I look in the mirror, here's Mark Webber on treaded tyres, hanging it out through the turns every lap. Every lap. We were getting quicker and quicker. It's like a big elastic band winding up. We were getting quicker, and there was this huge bump in turn 3, which is still there. And it was bottoming the car out that bad. It wore the whole bottom of my car off. Just smashed
Holy
the
shit.
Smashed the Van Diemen blokes that they part of it, they had to pay for it.
Yeah, right.
Because of this test day. But I watched Mark Webber drive a Formula Ford around Thunderdome so fast with such control. And Alan, his father, comes running out of the pits to stop us. He actually literally ran onto the track, waving his arms. Come in, come in, come in. And that day I said to everybody, Mark Webber is a star.
Yeah.
And that was 1995.
Yeah.
This is in the 95. Look where he went in 96, won the Formula Ford Festival.
Yep. And
97, I think he was driving for Jag. 98, all Minardi. And then 90. You look at.
And then fifth, and he came
and
fifth at
everyone
Amaroo Park.
baited him. Oh, no, I beat him in go-karts. Oh, he didn't do very well in the straight. Like, bullshit. He's a freaking star.
Yeah, yeah. Do you still
and he still treats you with respect. When I run into him at airports and whatever, he's still as normal as normal.
Yeah. You've raced around 600 cars. You've actually got you've actually done like a little note thing, as people can see on the camera here. You've actually written how many cars you've driven on a little receipt.
Well,
to end the podcast here over the years.
Yeah. Well, I worked out from my Tirana, Laser, Group A Commodores.
Yep.
Production cars, Formula Ford, Supercar era, Mirage Cup era, Aston Martin era.
Yep.
I reckon I've raced 34 different cars.
Yep.
And out of the 6-hour races, 12-hour races, and 24-hour races, 5, I reckon I've done 6 hours, 9 12 hours, and 18 24 hours. So that makes it nearly 600 hours of endurance racing.
600 hours of endurance racing.
Yeah, 600 hours.
Holy smoke.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good record, isn't it?
That's a pretty good. That's smoking. So before we close up this podcast, you're working now with John Boston at Track.
Yeah, Track School.
Boz. Yeah. How's that going for you?
Ah, great. He's got me involved in doing license testing for CAMS licenses.
Yep.
I'm a pretty tough
judge.
I am a tough
coach.
judge. I've knocked back quite a few people that have turned up on a day and gone, well, you're going to tick the boxes. Says, no, you're not close enough yet. And so John gets me down there to help one-on-one instruction.
Do you think there should be like a licensing system to race into supercars? Because a lot of people are coming in with money, as you know, supercars.
I was critical on that back when Tim Schenken was in the first, when Tim first come to Australia back from, I said that just because you're a rich businessman in your first or second year don't mean you go straight to Bathurst or straight to the, because remember when I started in 86, look at how many once a year drivers there were. Just once a year they turn up. They didn't even race the championships.
Yeah. Yeah. So you think there should be a system in place?
There should be some system. The point system, I think, sucks what they've got.
Yeah. The super license thing, whatever it's called. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what the answer is. I don't know it. I don't know.
So you can't like, obviously you can't fix it, but you reckon CAMS could do something about that?
Yeah, they could do.
Yeah.
I got to admit, and as I said to John, when we do our track days, if I get in the passenger seat in a real race car with a roll cage and seat, something that we're safe, because we've got to be safe.
Yeah. I
can generally tell within the first 100 metres leaving the pit lane, and I'll give you at least 3-4 corners, plus I can tell whether you're capable in one lap.
Yeah.
And after they get to the second lap, if we've survived the second lap, I can then go tick, yes, I reckon this kid or
gentleman or
gentleman
girl
racer
or
girl or whatever can do it. And I'm a pretty good critic, I tell you.
Yeah.
Because if you miss the apex of the first corner, or miss the breaker marker, or fumbled the gear change,
then
well, go back and start practicing. The trouble with the cars today. Look at the cars today. Paddle shift.
Yep.
Anti-lock brakes.
Yep.
Traction control.
Yep.
Stability program.
It's like a computer now these days.
Even our Aston Martins, it had onboard adjustable. You reach forward, you can crank in more ABS or less ABS, more traction control or less traction control. So as you left pit lane, depending on the condition of the tyres, how the track was, man. If it rained, if it started snowing or whatever, you just crank all the dials up.
Yeah.
Let the car do it.
Yeah.
And so it's really funny because the boss of Aston Martin, because the cars I raced over there every year were their development cars. So their cars hadn't even got to the to be sold. So they were always development cars or pre-production type cars. They were GT4 specs. They weren't the GT3. They were people could buy these cars.
Yeah.
And one year the boss comes up to me and goes, "All right, can you give us a couple of words so that we can print of our cars to the And I said, "Yeah, they're idiot proof." He goes, "Something a little bit more than idiot. Can we take the idiot out of it?"
Yeah.
I said, "I know I can't think of any other words for these cars, but they are idiot proof. You can."
Yeah. A lot of people are they are racing technically computers these days, and that's why I like racing Formula Ford for myself. That's why people ask me, why do I keep on doing it? Obviously, car racing is very, very expensive, but Formula Ford for me, as you've raced it yourself, is just raw. Do you know what I mean? Like it's just fun and raw, and it's just literally it's a dog box, and you got to drive it really really hard.
I always used to argue about this Carrera Cup. I used to think, how do these guys do so well? And Adam Wallace, mate of mine, he ended up buying a Carrera Cup car, and we were going to do the 12-hour in it, and I did 3 test days in it, and I thought, wow, how good are these things? Sequential Porsche, proper factory built, nothing goes wrong.
Yep.
So unfortunately, there is those kind of cars that someone with not much experience can get in and do quite well.
And then there's some people, that's what I was thinking. Just the whole, because you're like now a driver coach, the whole system, and people obviously complain on the internet, oh, why is this person going to this level and yada, yada, yada. Yeah. I was asking you, should there be a system in place? And that's just, for me, I think that's just, it's about learning. Do you know what I mean? Like no matter if it's a slower car and then you got a quicker car.
But how many keyboard worries are there these days?
There's too many.
You read too much crap.
Yeah.
That's why I don't get involved,
Yeah. Well, that's why I have this podcast. They either listen to it or they don't.
My only thing, I think I'm on Facebook because I used to love putting photographs of our family holidays and all the cars overseas for the people that I know.
Yeah.
Other than that, if I don't know you, don't ask me a friend request.
Yeah.
Not going to happen.
Yeah. I just happen to be a fan, and that's how I got contact with you.
That's different. And then I've learnt lots about Instagram and TikTok through my kids.
I don't even do TikTok.
But I've learned all that, but I'm not involved.
Yeah. Yeah. So Mal, thanks for coming on the podcast, man. I really appreciate you telling me all the stories, and hopefully maybe we'll get you on for another podcast.
Sure. There's plenty to cover because we only gave you a little bit.
But cheers, man. Much appreciated.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.